Chapter 2281. Boy, why are you in a daze? Quickly hand over the valuable things to me. The three hooligans looked at Dustless fiercely, and their words revealed a deep contempt. Looking at his sluggish appearance, he was probably scared silly. Useless trash. One of the hooligans with a knife laughed disdainfully. It seems that it really is another world from scratch. Dustless sighed and immediately picked his ears and smiled at the three hooligans. What did you say just now? Grandpa has earplugs, I didn't hear it clearly, repeat it for me. Boy, you are courting death. Hearing this, the three of them were furious and instantly rushed over. Reckless thing. Dustless saw this and his killing intent was awe-inspiring. This kind of mortal, he didn't want to lower himself to their level, but if the other party wants to die, then there is no other way. Killing you all would be letting you off too easily. Just live on in fear. The scarlet eyes blinked and a majestic eye power invaded the minds of these people. Plop. These people obviously couldn't resist Dustless's Sharingan, and they suddenly fell to the ground, their bodies trembling. Idiot, next time when I rob, I must pick the old, weak women and children. Without looking at the three of them, Dustless walked out of the alley. Rumble. At this time, Dustless's stomach failed to live up to his expectations, and his pace suddenly accelerated a lot. Let's find a place to eat first, the rest can be discussed later. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. At the moment when he was about to walk out of the alley, a black shadow sped past. Although the figure was very short and was still a child, but the skill was abnormally strong, and he skillfully jumped on the wall and disappeared from Dustless's sight. That kid just now seems to be Ferret, right? A short kid suddenly appeared in his mind. Dustless muttered to himself, what a familiar scene, could it be that Ferret snatched Amelia's badge? Dustless lowered his head and thought while walking, some places are always amazing coincidences. Ta-ta-ta-ta. At this moment the sound of messy footsteps came from the front. Dustless was obviously too engrossed in his thoughts. He still kept his head down and didn't give way. Bang. The mysterious newcomer bumped into Dustless in an instant, and both of them retreated at the same time. Why are there so many unlucky things happening when I just came to this world? Am I possessed by the tragic protagonist, Leon? Wuxia muttered. At the same time he raised his eyes and his pupils suddenly shrank. The person who bumped into Dustless was a delicate and cute girl. She had hair that reached her waist, purple eyes that sparkled like crystals, and a white flower on her forehead. Realizing that this person was strangely familiar, Dustless subconsciously asked, Amelia? You know me? The silver-haired girl's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. She stared at Dustless again and again and finally shook her head. I know you, but you definitely don't know me. Dustless smiled and introduced himself. Nice to meet you, my name is... Without giving Dustless time to introduce himself, an anxious shout suddenly came. Amelia, that guy is Dustless, he's with that thief. What the hell, someone actually knows me. Is there a transmigrator like me? Dustless was flabbergasted and he stood there stupidly without moving. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A large number of icicles suddenly shot at Dustless and easily froze him. His whole body was covered in thick ice, and only his head was fine for the time being. Good job, Parker. The voice spoke again, its tone wild with joy. It ran over from behind Amelia, and Dustless was extremely familiar with this person. Leon. He was also the most tragic protagonist of the year. June. That's impossible, how does this guy Leon know me? Dustless was covered in thick ice, and his body's movements were restricted. He couldn't figure it out and wondered in his heart, this is clearly the first time we've met, why is this kid looking at me with such an expression? Looking up, he saw Leon staring at Dustless with bloodshot eyes. This feeling was as if he had met the enemy who killed his father, and he couldn't wait to tear Dustless into pieces. This should be the first time we've met, right? Dustless was the first to speak. However, Leon did not care. He said to Amelia, this guy is called Dustless. He's in cahoots with the kid who stole your badge just now, and... Leon looked at Dustless with hatred and slandered, this guy is simply a deranged bastard, the degree of his cruelty is outrageous, he doesn't even spare the old, the weak, the women, and the children. The number of innocent women he raped is at least 10,000 if not 100,000. So deranged? Is there such a bad person in the world? Amelia's face was also full of shock, and then she looked at Dustless seriously and asked coldly, is what Leon said true? Dustless was dumbfounded and his mind was in a mess. The beginning of this script is not right, I've always been the one to slander others, but this time, someone has turned the tables and it's that little bastard Leon. No doubt this is the first time I've met him, but why does he hate me? Dustless's brain cells sped up, and then he had a flash of inspiration and muttered to himself, "This kid even knows my name. This is the strangest part. Seems like there's only one possibility. Could it be that Leon was killed by me in the past and then, death's return, and knows that I'm the big boss of the villain so he hates me so much? Does he want to use Amelia to get rid of me?" With this thought, the confusion in Dustless's heart suddenly cleared up. If Leon was killed by him in the past, then it was reasonable for him to hate Dustless now. "This time I'm going to kill you." Leon looked at Dustless with hostility. Dustless had guessed right. He was cut into pieces by Dustless, and his body was fed to the monsters. After he was rewound and resurrected, Leon hated Dustless to the core. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2282. This is interesting. I used to be the only one who knew the future, but now Leon has turned the tables. Even I have fallen into his trap. Wuxia smiled but didn't say anything. He looked at Amelia and explained, "Young miss, everything I said before is obviously nonsense. I don't know that thief and we aren't in the same group. We haven't even met. Amelia, don't listen to his bullshit. I can guarantee you that he is the demon of the night, a pervert who won't let go of the old, the weak, the women, and the children." Keiichi Subaru continued to defame her. The previous miserable memory emerged in his heart. He was almost killed by Dustless, and in the end he was chopped into 8 pieces and fed to the demon beasts. Although he was now in the samsara of death, there was still a shadow that couldn't be erased. Therefore, Keiichi Subaru decided to take the initiative. Instead of waiting for Dustless to take revenge on him, he might as well take the initiative and kill him. "Little girl, you don't really believe him, do you?" Noticing that Amelia was looking at him suspiciously, Dustless was extremely depressed. What Dark Knight Demon King? It was completely fabricated by this brat. "I believe in Pleiades. You're a good person. He will not accuse you." Amelia finally stood on Leon's side and looked at Dustless with hostility. "I can't believe I was tricked by Keiichi Pleiades. If I don't make you suffer, I will take your last name." Wuxia was furious. His body emitted a dangerous energy fluctuation. The ice that froze his body made a ka-ka-ka sound. His scarlet eyes locked on Liu Subaru. Bang. Dustless's aura was seriously too horrifying, instantly shattering the ice that covered his body. "Little mouse hiding in the dark, come out." Dustless's gaze swept past Amelia and Liu Subaru. Behind the two of them, there was a flickering figure, especially that head of fiery red hair and white coat, which was extremely dazzling. Such sharp senses. The handsome young man frowned and did not mingle with the crowd. He was handsome and had a slender sword at his waist. "This guy is called Reinhardt, right?" Dustless muttered to himself. He knew that the guy in front of him had inherited the title of Sword Saint. His strength was at the peak of this world. But Dustless was not afraid of him. Clang, clang, clang. Reinhardt put his hands in his pockets and looked at Dustless with a serious look in his eyes. A look of disbelief flashed across his eyes as he muttered to himself in disbelief, "My sword seems to be trembling. Why is that?" Reinhardt's sword was very special. It was called the Dragon Sword, Reed. It had its own consciousness. If it judged that the opponent was not qualified to draw it, it would not take the initiative to unsheath it. If the opponent was strong, Reinhardt's sword would automatically unsheath. Why is it shaking? Reinhardt was extremely confused. His right hand reached for the dragon sword at his waist. In an instant, his arm also began to shake with the frequency. This feeling made Reinhardt very cautious. The dragon sword seemed to have met its natural enemy and was terrified of its opponent. It should be an illusion. Reinhardt lowered his head and muttered to himself. His eyes were fixed on Dustless. His face was full of smiles and he looked quite gentle and good-looking. It was hard to associate him with a bad guy. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Keiichi Subaru suddenly stood in front of Amelia and showed a faint smile. In the face of Dustless's murderous gaze, she was as calm as a breeze. "If there's anything, just come at me. Don't hurt Amelia. She's just a girl. If you're not happy with me, just come at me. I promise I won't even blink an eye." "Well said." Reinhardt smiled and looked at Keiichi Subaru. She clearly knew that she might not be Dustless's opponent, but she still stood in the front line without hesitation. This kind of person was worthy of admiration. He gave her a heartfelt thumbs up. "Why are you protecting me? We just met." The simple Amelia was also very touched. Her eyes were like the dazzling sun as she gently gazed at Keiichi Subaru. "Some things, No matter who is right or wrong, as a man, I have to stand in front of a girl without hesitation. That's all. If there's anything you're not happy with, just come at me, Dustless. Keiichi Subaru waved her hand with a look of righteousness. She was very free and easy, as if she would not regret being killed by Dustless in the next second. I'm convinced by this show of pretentiousness. Dustless's old face twitched, and 100,000 alpacas army flew through his mind. This stinky boy dares to use me to pick up girls. Good boy, his tricks are really deep. No wonder he's a time traveler. You want to fight with me? See how I'll kill you. Keiichi Subaru was expressionless, but she was laughing in her heart. According to the development of the plot before the return of death, her words had indeed angered Dustless. Dustless wanted to kill her, but with Reinhardt, the Sword Saint, there, he was temporarily stopped. Keiichi Subaru was deeply in love with Emilia, so knowing Dustless's future, Keiichi Subaru would definitely not let go of this good opportunity to show off to Emilia and show her his manliness. Even if I'm killed, I have a clear conscience. Keiichi Subaru's lips curled up slightly, and he saw Emilia looking at him gratefully. What happened next was indeed as Keiichi Subaru had imagined, and Dustless was really angry. Come at you? I'll fulfill your wish. Dustless sneered and his eyes turned a bit. Then he said in a deep voice, Heavenly Hand Power. In the next second, Dustless switched places with Rock, who was next to Keiichi Subaru. Something's wrong. Keiichi Subaru saw Dustless descending from the sky, and her mouth was wide open, and her head was buzzing. She cursed in her heart. He should be fighting with Reinhardt. Why is he fighting with me? Did I remember the previous plot wrongly? Let me enjoy it. The enraged Dustless grabbed Keiichi Subaru, and with a wave of his hand, he slapped Keiichi Subaru to the ground and raised his foot to step on him. Who told you to use me to show off? Who told you to pick up girls with me? Who told you to slander me? Every time Keiichi Subaru roared, a footprint would appear on his face. Chapter 2283. Bang, bang, bang. Dustless's big foot continued to trample on Setsuki Subaru's face without any mercy. Every time it landed, in addition to a footprint, there were also blood stains. You dare to trick me? I'll make you regret living in this world. Dustless beat Setsuki Subaru as hard as he could. However, the situation this time was different. If he hit too hard and this bastard rewound, would he rewind as well? This kid's advantage is quite big. Dustless complained in his heart. Just as he was about to stomp on Setsuki Subaru, a cold blade came from behind. Swoosh, swoosh. The dangerous blade carried the sound of breaking through the air and swept towards Wu Chen's back. As far as sneak attacks are concerned, your movements are too big. Dustless turned his head to look at the crimson-haired man and grinned. Shinra Tensei. Bang. A majestic wave suddenly erupted, and the blade was bounced away. The crimson-haired man was also shaken by the powerful force and was forced to retreat. What a strange move. Who exactly are you? Reinhardt looked at Dustless cautiously and immediately said, People from the Sword Saint family will not sneak attack others. Really? Sword Saint? Sounds so scary. Dustless turned his head to look at Reinhardt with a faint smile on his face. Let me introduce myself again. My name is Reinhardt. This guy is Dustless. His move is very dangerous and it is released through those eyes. I remember it's called Rinnegan. Setsuki Subaru, who had been stomped dozens of times by Dustless, pointed at Dustless and explained, Be careful, these eyes can bang, bang, bang. However, before Setsuki Subaru's voice fell, Dustless stomped on him dozens of times in a row. That's for your cheap mouth. That's for stealing my lines. That's for showing off. Dustless stomped on him dozens of times in a row. Although he did not kill Setsuki Subaru to prevent him from rewinding, his strength was extremely terrifying. Setsuki Subaru's entire cheek was badly mutilated, and he grimaced in pain with a ferocious expression. Don't think that you can ride on my head and show off just because you know my future. In the face of absolute strength, all schemes and tricks are just asking for humiliation. Dustless smiled disdainfully. In fact, it's good that you can't die. I'll let you understand what it means to live. Swoosh, swoosh. Behind his back, a large number of icicles suddenly emerged, shooting towards Dustless uniformly. Bang, bang. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Swoosh, so swoosh, so swoosh, so swoosh, swoosh whoosh, swoosh, so swoosh, swoosh, so swoosh, swoosh. Ah. Even though his entire body was frozen, Dustless still looked natural in the ice. He looked at Emilia helplessly and confusedly. Setsuki Subaru is really fast. God knows how many bad things he said about me to this girl. Dustless could not help but have a headache. He also knew that Amelia was not a bad person. She was just fooled by Setsuki Subaru. How dare you beat up Lord Plio? Unforgivable. Amelia's body erupted with a large amount of cold air, and all of it hit the frozen Dustless. The ice actually made a ka-ka-ka sound, and once it completely collapsed, Dustless would definitely shatter like the ice. I can't forgive you? This is really unreasonable. Dustless shook his head and explained, I don't know that thief at all. This brat framed me. According to my previous style, I would have long dismembered him into pieces and thrown his corpse into the river to feed the fish. Gulp. Setsuki Subaru shuddered when he heard this. Before the samsara of death, Dustless had indeed done this. Therefore he hated Dustless to the core. Lord Plio would never accuse a bad person like you. Amelia looked coldly at Dustless. She clenched her fists tightly when she saw Setsuki Subaru's bloody body. Amelia Charcoal, seeing the furious Amelia, Keiichi Subaru's face was full of tears. She felt that it was worth it to be beaten up by Dustless. At least Amelia was the same as her. It should be understood that during the samsara of death, Amelia was fooled by Dustless and hated Keiichi Subaru very much. Setsuki Subaru was very excited now that she finally valued him. F***ck your mother. Looking at the overjoyed Kaiyeya Subaru, Wu Qin just uttered these words silently. Little girl, you are very kind. You don't need to hang out with this trash. Dustless was frozen in the ice. If he were an ordinary person he would have turned into a popsicle. However, Dustless was safe and sound. He said in a lazy and calm tone, this is the first time I met this guy. But he knows my name and my moves. Don't you think it's strange? That's true. Reinherit and Amelia were both stunned. They were not reckless people. They were very smart. After thinking about it, they realized that something was wrong. Setsuki Subaru knew Dustless so well. He even knew the names of his moves. Obviously they had known each other before. Don't listen to his nonsense. Seeing that the two of them were shaken, Keiichi Subaru quickly said, after all, this guy is a womanizer who is feared by everyone. It's understandable that you have heard of him. Boy, it's a small world. You just wait and see. Dustless glared at Setsuki Subaru and said, in order to prove my innocence, I can lead you to find the little girl who stole the badge. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2284. Are you sure? Looking at Dustless suspiciously, Amelia did not hide her doubts. Something is wrong with the script. The half-dead Mao Yuang was depressed. According to the original plot of Return of the Dead, he should have brought Amelia to find Ferret and successfully obtain the badge. He should have also won the appreciation of the beauty. How did he become Dustless? Of course, why would I lie to you? Dustless looked at Amelia and explained, just now, I saw the little girl's face clearly. Coincidentally, I know that she lives in the slums. When we find her, we will know whether I am innocent or not. That's true. Just say yes, Leah. The white cat that had been hiding in Amelia's neck suggested. Even Parker has fallen from grace. Damn it. Keiichi Subaru glanced at Dustless with resentment. She was so angry that smoke was coming out of her 7 orifices. She didn't understand why Parker suddenly liked this guy. Parker, is he really reliable? Amelia lowered her head and stroked Parker's fur. She could not help but look at Dustless a few more times. He is not reliable, but... Parker answered straightforwardly. His cat eyes squinted slightly as he carefully sized up Dustless. He could not help but shake his head and said, I can't tell how strong he is, but my intuition tells me that if we fight with him, it will be more serious than just now. So just say yes, Leah. But this guy is frozen by me. Amelia frowned. Dustless was currently frozen by a thick layer of ice and his movements were restricted. It's useless. Parker looked at Dustless with a shrewd gaze. Look at this guy. He looks like he is about to fall asleep. How can he be frozen? In other words, if a person was about to be frozen, they should be nervous. But Dustless, on the other hand, was about to fall asleep. This was too strange. I also suggest that you go with him. Reinhardt, who had been silent, interrupted. He looked at Dustless cautiously. The gentleness in his eyes disappeared in a flash and was replaced by a serious look. Although he had not fought with Dustless before, there was an inexplicable voice in his heart that told him that this guy in front of him was very scary and extremely powerful. Moreover, he had doubts about what Keiichi Subaru said before. How could a powerful person do those sneaky things? The chances were too slim. Bang. At the same time, the ice that froze Wu Chen's body instantly exploded and turned into debris all over the ground. However, Wu Chen's complexion did not change. There was a slight smile on his ruddy face as if nothing had happened just now. It was hard to associate his smile with that of a womanizer. This bastard. Why isn't he following the script? How preposterous. What he did was different from what happened before with the return of the dead. Keiichi Subaru cursed angrily in her heart. She stared at Wu Chen, who was in high spirits and felt depressed. She had planned to show off her power in front of Emilia, but the result was exactly what she had said. She failed to show off and was trampled on. As a result, Keiichi Subaru's face was disfigured. However, it was not difficult for Keiichi Subaru. As long as he used the return of the dead again, all the previous tragedies would happen again. Okay, I promise you that you will lead us to find the thief. If you are really wronged, I am willing to sincerely apologize. Emilia finally agreed to Dustless's condition. At the same time, she walked to Keiichi Subaru's side and helped him heal the scar on his cheek. Gosh, this chick is too kind. Dustless glanced at Emilia, who was helping Keiichi Subaru, and shook his head. At the same time, he frowned. I can't let Keiichi Subaru die. This guy can't be killed. If I kill him, his protagonist aura will activate again. That overpowered rewind skill might even drag me back and start all over again. Dustless was in a dilemma. This was the first time he had encountered such a tricky situation. No matter how he killed Keiichi Subaru, this guy would come back to life again. Let's go. I will take you to find that little bastard and prove your innocence. About half an hour later, Keiichi Subaru's bloody face had returned to normal. However, his whole face was still swollen like a hydrogen balloon. Damn you, Dustless. I will not forgive you. Keiichi Subaru, who was grimacing in pain, glared at Wu Chen. Her eyes were fixed on Wu Chen as if she wanted to swallow him alive. Also, damn it, this is like seeing a ghost. Is there something wrong with my skill? Keiichi Subaru cursed in his mind. According to the plot before his death return, Dustless wouldn't even bother to talk to them. He would crush them with his overwhelming strength and then walk away. However, this time, Dustless took the initiative to take them to find Ferret. How could Keiichi Subaru not be surprised? Plio-kun, can you walk? Emilia asked with concern. Of course I can walk. This guy's leg is not broken. Why can't I walk? I just stepped on his face. Dustless looked at Keiichi Subaru with a smile and said, Boy, are you trying to pretend that your leg is broken so that this lady can help you take advantage of it? You. How is that possible? I'm not a despicable person like you. Keiichi Subaru looked at Dustless seriously. He wanted to grab Emilia's hand, but after hearing what Dustless said, he immediately pushed Emilia away. This bastard must be doing it on purpose. Keiichi Subaru cursed Dustless in his mind. His heart was bleeding. He had planned to do it, but after hearing what Dustless said, he even helped Emilia up. Didn't that mean that he agreed with Dustless's words? Don't think that you are so great just because you can rewind. Dustless sneered. Keiichi Subaru could only rewind if he died. If he didn't die, his skill would be useless and he would still be a weak piece of trash. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 comments plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 2285. Dustless sneered. Looking at Keiichi Subaru's bitter face, he knew that he had guessed right. This guy did have such a shameless idea. You want to use me to pick up girls? You are quite ambitious. How dare you use me to slap your face? Dustless moved closer to Keiichi Subaru and said in a low voice, You can show off in front of me, but if you go too far, I can't help but throw you to the fish. That would be a tragedy. You. Hearing Dustless's threat, Keiichi Subaru trembled and looked at Dustless with fear. He knew that this guy was a man of his words. Before the return of death, he had been cut into pieces by Dustless and fed to the magical beasts. Wait and see. Glaring at Dustless fiercely, Keiichi Subaru hid behind Emilia and Reinhardt in an extremely cowardly manner. Trash. Wu Chen smiled contemptuously. Then he led the way in the front and said lazily, Hurry up. Let's finish it before dark. Then we can find a place to eat. Dustless left as soon as he finished speaking. His memory was not bad, so he knew the approximate location of the slums. Follow me, Leah. Parker gave her a comforting look. Although he trusted Keiichi Subaru, Dustless didn't give him the first impression that he was a bad guy. On the surface, he looked a little unreliable and glib-tongued, but he was very calm, as if he had everything under control. About half an hour later, Dustless, Amelia and the others came to a dilapidated slum. The environment was stinky and flies were flying everywhere. The strange smell was disgusting. The people living here were also thin and sallow. Their clothes were ragged, and their eyes were cloudy and listless. It seemed that they hadn't eaten for a long time. Girl, this is a dog-eat-dog world. If you are so kind, you will be plotted against sooner or later. There is a limit to everything. Excessive kindness will be used by others. In an abandoned house, Amelia's forehead was covered in sweat. She was saving a fainted drifter. It seemed that she hadn't eaten for many days. Her breathing was very weak. This guy is really too kind. Dustless looked at Amelia helplessly. Amelia had saved quite a few people along the way. Mind your own business. Amelia glanced at Dustless. Because of Keiichi she hated Dustless. Maybe it was because Dustless beat her. Hehe, you deserve it. Seeing this scene, Keiichi laughed gloatingly. She was extremely happy to see Wuxia suffer. Haha, you can laugh slowly. Sooner or later you will cry bitterly. In this regard, Dustless also smiled faintly. He was also an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years. It was impossible for him to get angry just because of someone's ridicule. Let's go. After a few more minutes, Amelia put out the fire of the sallow and emaciated drifter. She also gave him a small amount of money. After that, she followed Dustless to find Ferret and ask for the badge. We're here. Pointing at the dilapidated house not far away, Dustless finally breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I didn't remember it wrong. Otherwise, I would have to live with the name of a thief. Is this the place? It seems that the thief who stole my badge was forced to do so. He treated the badge as something valuable and just wanted to make a living. Amelia looked around and said to herself, Ferret's house could barely shelter them from the wind and rain. The house in front of them had been in disrepair for many years. Some parts of the house had already decayed into dregs. You're right. Although that little girl stole from you, she was forced to do so. If she could live a carefree life, who would be willing to be a thief? It was hard to live a human life. Sometimes you have to do things that you can't help but have to do. Dustless said with a lot of emotion. It sounds reasonable. Amelia nodded slightly. It was rare for her to agree with Dustless's point of view. Humph, it sounds like you are trying to absolve yourself of your crime. A sarcastic voice came. Turning around, it was Keiichi. As for Reinherit, he had quietly left. As for what he was going to do, Dustless didn't know. He guessed that he was looking for more people to help deal with Dustless just in case. Facing Dustless alone, Reinherit didn't have enough confidence. Creak. The door was gently opened and a young head popped out. She looked at Dustless with a puzzled face. Who are you? This person with a mouth full of doubts blinked her bright eyes. Her voice was quite crisp. This young girl was Ferret. Amelia recognized her at a glance. Give me back the things you took. I can let bygones be bygones. If it was something else, I wouldn't want it. But that badge means too much to me. Amelia looked at the short Ferret and said in a very gentle tone. Perhaps in her opinion, Ferret was still an insensible child. The reason why she became a thief was that she was forced to do so. After all, life in the slums was too difficult. It was difficult to even fill one's stomach. Who stole your things? Don't falsely accuse me. Do you think that I am easy to bully because I am young? Ferret put her hands on her hips and yelled, Master Rum, someone is here to cause trouble. As soon as she said this, a huge and strong old man swooped down. Because of his huge body, the ground trembled slightly when he walked. Who is it that is causing trouble in my territory? Do you want to be smashed into meat paste by me? The giant old man named Rum was very domineering. He carried a huge hammer in his hand, and his aura was awe-inspiring. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2286. Old man, step aside. It's not easy to live to such an old age. Go and retire quietly. You're old and weak. If you get injured, you might die. There's no place for you to behave atrociously here. Dustless was not afraid at all when he saw the old man with eyes as big as brass bells. Gulp. On the other hand, Kaiwa was so scared that he hid behind Amelia, his body trembling slightly. Although the death return skill was quite powerful, it did not increase his combat power. After all, Kaiwa was still a weakling. Moreover, this golden finger had a huge flaw. It could only be used when he was dead. Therefore, Kaiwa Subaru was called the most tragic protagonist of the year. Little brat, you're so young but you talk big. Ferocity flashed in Master Ram's old eyes. He lifted the huge hammer and smashed it down. Ah, well done. It's best to smash Dustless into minced meat. He's such an eyesore. I don't want him to spoil my plans every day. I'm the protagonist destined to save the alternate world. Kaiwa Subaru laughed and cheered in his heart. He gave the crazy Master Ram a thumbs up. Lord Pleiades, Amelia frowned. She was disgusted by this attitude. However, when she recalled the damage Dustless had done to her, she was relieved. In her opinion, Kaiwa Subaru was just holding back his anger. He would return to normal once he vented it out. Seeing the hammer falling on his head, Dustless was calm and relaxed. He stretched out his skinny arm lazily and said, "Old man, you're so old and yet you're still looking for trouble. You'll be killed sooner or later. You arrogant guy. Do you think you can block Master Ram's attack with one hand? You're overestimating yourself. Run if you know what's good for you. I didn't steal anything from you." Falut crossed her arms in front of her and pouted slightly. She did not hide the sneer on her face. She quickly distanced herself from Master Ram as if she was afraid that Dustless would be smashed into minced meat and his blood would stain her body. "This guy. You're no match for him. Run away from Dustless." Amelia also became nervous. She couldn't help but worry for Dustless. He sincerely felt that he was overestimating himself. After all, how powerful could a hand that had not been enchanted with magic power be? He was probably not much stronger than an ordinary person. Although Amelia hated Dustless because of Kaiwa Subaru, she didn't want him to die, especially when he was trying to help her find her badge. Boom boom boom. Faint mana fluctuations burst out of Dustless's body, and just as Amelia was about to save him, the mace smashing down had already covered Dustless' head. Ah, this is bad, this is bad. Seeing such a cruel scene, I'm definitely going to have nightmares. Falut hurriedly closed her eyes and covered her eyes with her hands, unable to bear to look at this bloody scene. Kaiwa Subaru was the same. He quickly covered his eyes. In terms of endurance, he might not be as good as Falut. After all, he had always been a flower in a greenhouse. How could he withstand the destruction of the storm? Bang! The hammer hit Dustless's body, creating a dull explosion. It was as if his body was smashed. The horrifying sound made Falut and Kaiwa Subaru shiver. They couldn't help but shiver. "Master Ram, did this guy become a meat patty? Did you really do it?" "Actually, I just wanted to scare him away. I didn't expect you to really kill him." Falut was in a dilemma. Her tone was filled with self-blame. She felt bad that she had saved a life for no reason. After all, she and Dustless had never met before, and there was no blood feud between them. However, Master Luo Mu kept his mouth shut. The entire place was dead silent. "Master Ram, you..." Out of curiosity, Falut moved her hands away and opened her eyes. Her shining pupils suddenly froze. How is this possible?" Falut's tone was filled with endless shock. Dustless really did it? It was just one hand. It looked so thin and weak, but it blocked Master Ram's attack. Dustless's mace didn't fall on his head. He looked so relaxed and casual. No, it wasn't appropriate to say that it was just one hand. Looking up, Dustless only used his middle finger to catch the mace that was smashing towards his head. This guy is so strong. Seeing this scene, not to mention the others, even Amelia was so shocked that she opened her mouth wide. Her eyes widened as she stared at Dustless, who was as steady as a mountain. Her heart skipped a beat. There's no fluctuation of magic. Did he catch it with his body? What a monster. How hard is this guy's body? Amelia took a deep breath, and her heart almost jumped out of her chest. Damn bastard. Why is his body so hard? Is he the main character or am I the main character? Are you kidding me? Kaiwa Subaru was also dumbfounded. She looked at Dustless, who had blocked Master Luo Mu's attack with a single finger. She was jealous and envious. Thinking of her pathetic gold finger, she burst into tears. Why was there such a huge gap between people? He can block my attack with one finger? A magical beast? That's impossible too. Master Ram's heart skipped a beat. He gritted his teeth and roared in a daze. Even if a magical beast doesn't have the slightest resistance or defense, it can still be smashed to death by me. This guy used one finger. It must be witchcraft. Ehe, you want to smash me to death? Dustless pursed his lips and chuckled. He raised one finger. Anyway, I'm bored for the time being. Why don't I give you a chance to destroy me? Old man, do it 100 million times. Dustless was too lazy to explain. He glanced at the broken mace. You want to destroy me with this thing? This isn't a fairy tale. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 tips plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2287. Cough cough cough. Master Rum suddenly coughed twice, his face twitched and said in a strange tone, "Misunderstanding, this is all a misunderstanding." The form was stronger than the person. When it was time to lower one's head, one had to lower one's head. After living for most of his life, Master Luo Mu understood this basic principle very well. Old man, you are very flexible. Dustless smiled and did not make things difficult for him. He looked at Ferret and said calmly, putting aside the time when you stole Amelia's badge, this should be the first time we met. Although Ferret did not know what Dustless was talking about, it was the truth, so he nodded and confirmed that Dustless was telling the truth. Oh no, I'm going to be exposed. Seeing this, Kayatsuki Subaru's heart skipped a beat. He subconsciously looked at Dustless, but he was nowhere to be seen. Boy, you accused me of colluding with Ferret and being her accomplice, right? Now how are you going to explain this? Sensing danger, Kayatsuki Subaru was about to hide behind Amelia, but he did not expect a cold voice from behind. Before he could run to Amelia's back, he was caught by a big hand. Who caught me? Let me go. Kayatsuki Subaru felt even more uneasy. The moment he turned his head, his pupils suddenly shrank and he shouted angrily, Dustless, let me go. Being carried by Dustless like a chicken, Kayatsuki Subaru felt particularly aggrieved. Let him go. Amelia was stunned for a moment, then she scolded, bullying a weak person like Plyakin will only make you look shameless. It doesn't matter. Dustless did not care. He smiled and said very casually, anyway I'm thick-skinned. It's useless for you to mock me. I've always been a person with flaws. Since he dared to slander me, what's wrong with me teaching him a lesson? You? Amelia's pretty face was extremely embarrassed. It was undeniable that this matter was indeed Kayatsuki Subaru's fault. After all, he had accused Dustless of colluding with Ferret. Now that the truth was clear, teaching this boy a lesson was reasonable. My lord is magnanimous. Dustless looked at Kai Yuehong with a generous face. I'll give you 2 chances. Kneel down and kowtow to admit your mistake or I'll beat you up. Which one do you choose? You call this magnanimous? Dustless's words made Kayuezuo's nose almost crooked. She glared at him and said, You want me to kneel before you? Dream on. All right then. Dustless's eyes turned cold. He fiercely pushed Kayuezuo to the ground and kicked her. How dare you accuse me? Let's see how arrogant you can be. That's what you get for not having the ability to act tough. That's what you get for relying on your rewind cheat. In less than a minute, footprints appeared on Keiichi Subaru's face. Dustless didn't show any mercy. Every time he stepped on Keiichi Subaru's face, a deep red footprint would appear. Damn it, stop. Amelia couldn't stand it anymore. She was kind by nature. How could she tolerate Dustless bullying the weak like this? Stop, Amelia. At this moment, Parker suddenly flew out and stood in front of Amelia. Parker, aren't you close to Lord Plyagen? Why are you stopping me now? Amelia was confused. Parker and Lord Plyagen had argued before. These are 2 different things. Parker shook his head. Looking at Kayuezuo who was being beaten up, his eyes revealed a hint of coldness. He explained, Lord Plyagen is actually being merciful by not killing someone who is countless times stronger than him. Every strong person has their own dignity. Who can tolerate being challenged and accused by a weak ant. So, it's not a bad thing to let Lord Plyagen suffer. This way he will be able to see things clearly. This seems to be true. Amelia tilted her head and nodded. He knew that he wasn't as strong as Dustless, yet he still went to challenge him. Who could he blame for being beaten up? He was lucky that he wasn't killed. In fact, it was worth mentioning that Dustless also wanted to kill Kayatsuki Subaru. The key was that this guy's death return was too powerful. He could be resurrected even if he was killed. It was useless, so it was better to torture him physically. It's so lively here. Kayuezuo's scream attracted the attention of the crowd. Many people were watching silently. After all, Dustless was too cruel. Kayuezuo's face was bloody and his eyes were bleeding. Of course, there were also those who were bold enough to walk over in a grandiose manner. This guy seems to be. Dustless sensed that he was being targeted. He immediately looked up and saw a woman with a pretty face and a hot body walking over slowly. Got Hunter Ilusa? This name suddenly popped up in Dustless's mind. He frowned and walked up to Amelia. He reminded her, "Girl, this woman is dangerous. You better be careful." "Is she as dangerous as you?" Amelia looked at Dustless calmly. Hearing this, Dustless was speechless. He moved the corner of his mouth, but in the end, he remained silent. He had repeatedly insulted Kaiuezwa. This girl probably hated him very much. She was only talking to him now out of basic courtesy. However, he still kindly reminded her, "Anyway, be careful. This woman has a dangerous nickname, Gut Hunter." Amelia still looked at Dustless indifferently and didn't say anything. It was enough to show that she didn't like Dustless. "Handsome guy, how should I address you?" Elusa walked over slowly and looked at Dustless's face. She smiled and asked, but her eyes were full of vigilance. She didn't see Dustless appearing behind Kaiuezwa in a flash. His speed was extremely fast. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2288. Goodbye. I'll leave now. Don't worry, I promise I won't appear in front of you again. The colorless king fled frantically. After escaping from the gates of hell, he cherished his life even more. Swish, swish, swish. His body turned into a dazzling light and disappeared into the vast sky. Someone as powerful as Dustless could easily destroy his confidence. How terrifying would he be when he was serious? Thinking of this, the colorless king felt a chill down his spine. Is the body cold? Turning his head to look at Toshiro, who had closed his eyes, Dustless left decisively. After all, this guy's death had nothing to do with him, so there was nothing to feel guilty about. Moreover, in the original work, this guy was killed by the colorless king. Let them take revenge on the colorless king. Anyway, the video recorded the murderer, so Dustless didn't have to worry about anything. As for the force behind Toshiro, he was one of its members. There were many people in the organization and most of them were gangsters. They were extremely violent and arrogant. The person who led them was the Red King Zhou Fangzuan. Now that Toshiro was dead, this group of people would definitely not let it go. They would fight the colorless king to the death. Forget it, I'll talk about the future in the future. For now, I'll find a place to fill my stomach. I'm hungry too. Dustless lowered his head and looked around. Then he saw a restaurant in the distance and walked over. Meow meow meow. Just as Dustless left, a cute cat with pure white fur suddenly walked out from the darkness. After looking at the bloody scene, it didn't stay any longer and followed Dustless's footsteps. As for the Izona Society, it only took a few more glances. About an hour later. Where should I go? I can't always wander around, right? Late at night, Dustless was in a dilemma. He sat alone on a park bench, staring at the stars in the sky. He was in a daze, bored out of his mind. Beside him was a plastic bag full of various snacks. Meow meow meow. Suddenly, a white kitten slowly walked over. It looked at the food in the bag, but it seemed to be very afraid of Dustless. It didn't dare to get close. Its voice was very pitiful, but it sounded more like a spoiled child. It's the middle of the night. I didn't expect a cat to keep me company. Dustless smiled bitterly and sighed. He immediately threw a few bags of snacks to the white kitten. The kitten was extremely smart. It raised its paw and tore the bags into pieces. What a smart kitten. Dustless was slightly taken aback. Soon after, he looked at the night sky in boredom, thinking about where to go next. Continuing to wander was not a good idea. Meow 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 meow. The kitten seemed to think that Dustless was not a bad person. She suddenly jumped into Dustless's arms and looked at him eagerly. Out of the corner of her eyes, she peeked at the snacks in the bag. Up to you. Dustless said casually as he stroked the white kitten's hair. Gotcha. The kitten's eyes lit up. It seemed to understand Dustless's words. She raised her paw and tore the closed bag of snacks with great familiarity. She began to eat heartily. It seemed that she was starving. About 10 minutes later, the white kitten finished all the snacks. She laid lazily in Dustless's arms and made strange noises. This world is really strange. Even cats can **king burp. Dustless complained with a speechless face. In the end, he left, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. The kitten seemed to be intelligent. Her eyes looked at Dustless's back. After hesitating for a while, she finally followed Dustless's footsteps. Just like that, one person gradually disappeared under the night sky. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The white kitten's two small feet were abnormally strong. With a light jump, she easily jumped onto Dustless's shoulder. Immediately, she lay down on all fours peacefully. She narrowed her eyes in satisfaction. She looked like she was enjoying herself and licked the corner of her mouth from time to time. Dustless didn't say anything when he saw this. The corners of his mouth raised into a thought-provoking arc. He hummed a little tune. He had already vaguely guessed something and understood the identity of this cat. It wasn't an ordinary kitten. Kitten, you should be able to understand me, right? Dustless looked at the kitten on his shoulder with a smile. Then he suddenly held her in his hands. The white kitten was silent. She looked into Dustless's deep eyes and finally nodded. Very good. No matter what kind of creature you are, you have to be honest to be likable. Dustless nodded in satisfaction. You should be able to change into a human's appearance, right? The white kitten was completely stunned when she heard this. She looked at Dustless in surprise. His bright eyes seemed to be able to see through all her secrets. She looked at Dustless's eyes warily. After discovering that he wasn't hostile, she finally nodded again. It seems that my luck isn't bad. A beauty took the initiative to throw herself into my arms. Under the cold night sky, the cold wind raged. Dustless smiled as if he was trying to find joy in the midst of bitterness. After all, the white kitten's human appearance was that of a well-developed girl. Bang! Suddenly, a large amount of white mist appeared in front of Dustless. The white kitten in his hands also disappeared. It was obvious that she had disappeared. Immediately after, a white naked body fell from the sky. Dustless subconsciously reached out and hugged her. A rich fragrance rushed into his ears and nose. Dustless couldn't help but be a little dazed. Fortunately, it was late at night and there was no one around. Moreover, no one could see her body. Otherwise, she would really be exposed. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2289. Dustless's face darkened. He hurriedly took off his coat and put it on Kitty as fast as lightning. He looked at the naive young girl in annoyance. You brat, I only asked you if you can turn into a human, but you... If I'm an inexperienced pervert, you'll be in trouble. Dustless scolded in annoyance. The point is you're not. Your eyes are very clean. You're not a bad person. The young girl's voice was crisp and sweet, making people enjoy listening to it. It was soft and made people feel relaxed. Are you planning to follow me? Dustless looked at the young girl and said helplessly, to tell you the truth, let alone you, even I don't have a fixed place to stay. Are you sure you want to wander around with me? Yes, yes, yes. Kitty nodded her head vigorously and smiled. If I'm with you, no one will bully me and I'll have food to eat. You're an outsider. It's good enough that you don't bully others. Dustless scratched the young girl's nose, and the two of them left together. What's your name? Mao, innocently asked, her sparkling and translucent eyes twinkling. Meh. Just call me Dustless. Dustless answered casually. After Kitty heard that, she almost made Dustless fall down. Then I'll call you Little Wu from now on. Kitty subconsciously said as her slender white fingers touched her chin. Oh. Wu Chen's face was resolute. If he was called Little Wu, wouldn't his illustrious reputation be ruined? Absolutely not. There was no room for discussion. Alright, you're familiar with this city, right? Dustless was afraid that Kitty would be troubled by this question, so he quickly changed the topic. I'm planning to find a job. Do you have any recommendations? A job? After Dustless said that, Kitty immediately lowered her head and pondered. She asked in surprise, with your strength, there's no need for you to work. You can. I know what you want to say, but I've already decided. Although work is boring, idling at home is even more boring. After a long time, my body will rust. Dustless opened his mouth to explain. Suddenly, he remembered the few worlds he had been in and the few times he had been a teacher, so he decided, let's pick up my old profession and go to a nearby school to be a teacher. Not long after Dustless and Mauer left, the members of Veda Willow rushed to the place where Tatora had been killed. Lying in a pool of blood, his body was already cold. He had no feeling at all. When he died, his eyes were open as if they were filled with unwillingness. Mr. Tatara. The members of Do Willow lowered their heads to look at Toboryoshi, who was lying in a pool of blood. Some of them even had tears flowing out of their eyes. It was obvious that Toboryoshi was very popular in this violent organization. This is a video camera? Kusanagi Izumo looked at the video camera that fell to the side, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. After looking at it again and again, he was overjoyed. Take Totora's body back and bury him. He won't die in vain. The bastard who killed him won't let him go easily. We must use his blood as a sacrifice to Totora. Kusanagi Izumo shouted, and his whole body was covered in crimson flames. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye 3 days later, the news of the death of Totora, a senior cadre of Dowulo, swept the entire city in a short time. The entire Dowulo was in an uproar, and people were wantonly searching for the murderer. As for the colorless king and Dustless, they also became the focus of attention. But Dustless knew nothing about these trivial matters. He and Mao rented a luxurious villa. Anyway, Dustless has the ability of king's treasure. He lacks everything except money. He can squander it wantonly and live the life of a nouveau riche like a nouveau riche. The middle of the Reed Academy is the closest school nearby. Because of the relationship with Sharingan, Dustless successfully controlled the principal and got the position of a teacher. Why is it a healthcare teacher again? In front of the healthcare teacher's office, Dustless looked unlucky. He used to be a healthcare teacher in other worlds. It was really inconvenient for him to have intimate contact with female students in some places. But Dustless searched the memory of the principal. What this school lacks is only a healthcare teacher. Creak. Just as he pushed the door open, a few students with anxious expressions came into view. I'm the new healthcare teacher, what's the matter? Looking at the anxious girls, Dustless frowned and asked. Suddenly he found a silver-haired boy lying on the hospital bed. Dustless walked over and his pupils suddenly shrank. Isn't this the kid from Izona Club? Dustless was quite surprised. He didn't expect to meet this kid here. He couldn't help but guess in his heart, but who is this guy? Is he the colorless king or the first king, the silver king Adolf K. Weitzman? Quietly looking at Izona Club, Dustless pondered. In the original work, Mao modified the memory of Izona Club, causing this guy to not remember who he is. Now that I took Mao away, this guy's memory is intact. So, the current him is the Silver King Adolf K. Weitzman? As for the original colorless king, he was probably scared to death by Dustless and left this body long ago. So if he guessed correctly, the Silver King should be the one controlling the personality of this body. After that, Wuxia asked where this group of students found the Izona Club. Everyone's answer was also very simple. When they found the club, they had fainted in the school. As for where they came from, no one knew. All of you can go back. After a while, Dustless ordered them to leave. He didn't care about Izona Club. This guy's body had the Silver King, and his ability was not taken away. He could be immortal and float without gravity. Even if Dustless left him alone, he would wake up on his own. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2290. In a flash it was almost noon. Dustless didn't have the skills to cook, so he had no choice but to go to the restaurant with Mao to have a full meal. During this period, Dustless repeatedly ordered Mao to put on her clothes. Only then did she put on her clothes reluctantly, as if she was suffering a lot. Dustless could only laugh dryly. But when they came out of the restaurant, tragedy suddenly struck. They were surrounded by a group of fierce-looking people, each of them holding a fighting weapon like a club in their hands. What do you want? Dustless asked with a frown. This group of people looked fierce, and at a glance, he knew that they weren't good people. They also had various tattoos. The most conspicuous thing was that Dustless also saw the Bark Willow logo on each of them, and he understood the purpose of this group of people in his heart. These people are not good people. Dustless couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Mao seemed to have noticed the hostility of these people and hid behind Dustless very timidly. Immediately she exposed her head and angrily rebuked, "You have found the wrong person, Dustless. Dustless is not the person you are looking for." "Little girl, you changed your words quickly." Dustless rolled his eyes at Mao. Hearing the name Little Wu, Dustless had goosebumps. "But she is right. You have found the wrong person. Get out of the way." Looking at the eyes of several people, Dustless said calmly, You think we will get out of the way just because you said so? You don't put our Bark Willow in your eyes." An extremely arrogant tone suddenly came. After the group of hooligans heard the voice, they immediately got out of the way. Then a young man dressed in a non-mainstream way came into view. He was riding a skateboard confidently, with an unruly expression on his cold face. At first glance, one could tell that he was a delinquent young man. He was not old, estimated to be around 20 years old. How did Mr. Duo Liang die? You have to explain it to me clearly. The young man with the skateboard looked at Dustless with hostility. He held a baseball bat and looked extremely arrogant. The first impression he gave was that he was the type who would start a fight if there was a disagreement. Another familiar face. Looking at the newcomer in surprise, Wu Qin recognized this person. If I remember correctly, your name is Hadamiko, right? You know me? Hadamiko was slightly taken aback and immediately said with a deep face, Who allowed you to call me by my name? Dustless's expression changed slightly. A sharp light flashed in his eyes and his tone turned cold. If I don't call you by your name, what should I call you? Do you want me to call you Tom, Dick, or Harry? Dustless originally had no intention to lower himself to the same level as this Chinibi youth. However, the other party was not tactful and full of hostility. He did not understand the principle of keeping a low profile at all. Since that was the case, there was no need for him to be polite. You're courting death. Sure enough, this guy really belonged to the conceited and arrogant type. He stepped hard on the ground with his right foot and slid the skateboard over quickly. The bat had already smashed toward Wu Chen's head. You're itching for a beating. Then I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of your family. Dustless said to himself, his hands clenched into fists. Shio shio shio. Seeing that the bat was about to hit Dustless's head in a flash, a black shadow rushed over and blocked in front of Dustless. With a clang sound, a long sword was unsheathed, and the words Fu Jian, draw your sword could be heard. Bang! Hadamiko's bat hit the long sword, and the rebound force made both of them take a few steps back. The person who suddenly stood up to support Dustless was obviously on the same level as him. Neither of them could do anything to the other. Another acquaintance, Fu Jian Rubigu. Silver glanced at the person. Of course, he didn't think that he was here to help him. The two of them didn't get along well, and maybe he helped because he was annoyed by Hadamiko. The one in blue? Get out of my way, monkey. After seeing her old enemy, Hadamiko shouted angrily. Meirua, so it's you? Fu Jian pointed at Wu Qin with an arrogant expression, as if he was announcing his possession. He then said loudly, Our leader wants this person. You guys Fei Wulua can get lost now. Dustless looked at this scene quietly, and couldn't help but laugh in his heart. What did this group of clowns think of him as? A commodity that anyone could snatch? Or a passerby? They could pick it up and snatch it at will. However, Dustless didn't make a move. He looked calm and resigned to his fate. He just watched silently and his eyes were fixed on Hadamiko. The reason why he didn't make a move was that he wanted to see why this guy was looking for trouble with him. If he couldn't hold back and crippled him, no one would ask questions. Your leader? Hearing this, Hadamiko smiled proudly. What a coincidence, this guy is also the person our boss is looking for. So, monkey, you should go back. Miko, you don't have the final say. Fu Jian Rubigu also insisted. The two of them looked at each other with hostility, and there was a possibility of a fight at any time. Cough cough cough. I'm not interested in your grudges, but I still want to interrupt and ask. Dustless looked at the two of them and saw that they were about to fight. Suddenly he asked, Why are you looking for me? Toshiro was dead, but it had nothing to do with him. The one who killed him was King Colorless. Dustless didn't offend Fu Jian Rubigu, but he still became their prey. I just don't like you. Looking at Dustless, Hadamiko seemed to be joking, but she also seemed to be serious. Clap clap clap. Hearing this, Dustless was stunned for a moment and immediately clapped his hands. His eyes were filled with coldness in an instant. What a coincidence, you guys have been chattering for a long time, and I also don't like you guys. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2291. I just don't like you. Looking at Dustless, Hadamiko seemed to be joking but also seemed to be serious. Clap clap clap. Hearing this, Dustless was stunned and immediately applauded. His eyes were cold in an instant. What a coincidence. You've been chattering for a long time. I don't like you either. Dustless was speechless. Originally, he thought that this group of people had always been arrogant and young, so he was too lazy to argue with them and talk nonsense. Who would have thought that Hadamiko was so arrogant? If someone said to you that he didn't like you and wanted to beat you up, what would you do? Everyone would be irritated, not to mention Dustless's bad temper. Don't like me? Hearing this, Hadamiko was like a cat whose tail was stepped on. She was enraged. She gnashed her teeth and said, Mr. Zun said that he would catch you alive, so I won't hurt you. Now take back your words, and apologize to me. Hadamiko was really angry. As a member of the Red Clan, everyone had their own pride, but now she was despised by Dustless. How could she not be angry? What if I refuse? Dustless asked indifferently, You can be barbaric and unreasonable, why can't I? You can be angry with others, but I can't be angry with you? What? Dustless maintained his composure from beginning to end. Even if he was already fuming in his heart, he still maintained absolute calm. Why? At this moment, not to mention Hadamiko, even Fu Jianyuigu sneered with a contemptuous expression. Of course it's because of this. As soon as his voice fell, he raised the long sword in his hand, full of pride. That's right. Hadamiko, who usually fought with Fu Jianyuigu, decisively stood on Fu Jianyuigu's side and said righteously, Of course it's because of strength. With strength you can beat me and I don't care. After all, it's because I'm not as good as you. So, now you come with me and apologize. Miko, this guy is valued by our leader. Don't even think about taking him away. The two of them only talked for a few seconds and then began to fight again. Fu Jianyuigu's face was gloomy. What did you say? Say it again if you dare. I'll smash your head. Hadamiko glared at Fu Jianyuigu, her eyes spitting fire as if she wanted to melt him. You two guys. Dustless could be silent, but Mao could not stand it. After seeing Dustless's strength, he knew how terrible Dustless was. Not to mention these two minions, even if Red King Zhou Fangzuan and Blue King Zhong Xiangrusi came, they would not be able to deal with Dustless. Hurry up and apologize or Dustless will beat you to death. You two will be beaten black and blue, and you won't even recognize your leader. The cat bared its fangs and brandished its claws as a warning. However, it hid behind Dustless from the beginning to the end, as if it was a fox borrowing the tiger's might. Ah! The two who were still quarreling instantly turned their heads and looked at Dustless and sneered, Just by this guy? His arms and legs are thin, and he's not a member of other clans and he wants to beat us black and blue? Ridiculous, this joke is really tasteless. You're overestimating yourself. Fu Jianyuigu also looked down on Dustless. You two are too weak, Dustless won't even bother to fight. Mao continued, unwilling to be outdone, otherwise he could kill the two of you with a single finger. Don't get carried away. Hearing this, the two's faces changed and they looked at Dustless with an unfriendly face and clenched their fists. Perhaps if they did not order Dustless to be captured alive, they would have already beaten him up to vent their anger. You little girl. Turning his head and patting Mao's head, Dustless asked in a bad mood, Are you helping me out or are you deliberately causing trouble for me? Because of you they are becoming more and more hostile to me. Who asked them to be so arrogant? They are obviously not your match but they are still so arrogant. Mao pouted and said with her cheeks pouted, looking very playful and cute. Hearing this, Dustless smiled and immediately turned his head to look at the two. It's useless to apologize. You've successfully infuriated me. Although Mr. Zun wants to capture you alive and not kill you, he can do other things such as giving you a good beating. At this point Hadamiko's face suddenly turned ferocious. Beating me up? Dustless laughed and immediately said bluntly, Boy, you should have seen the video, right? You clearly know that the murderer is King Colorless, but you still want to cause trouble for me, which can only mean one thing. You hate me. Looking at Hadamito's hateful eyes, Dustless said bluntly, You hate me for having superpowers and why it wasn't my head that blocked the bullet for Toshiro. Am I right? The thoughts of violent organizations are really hard to understand. Hearing this, Toshiro didn't say anything but he thought so in his heart. If Dustless didn't have superpowers and was just an ordinary person, then the bullet would have shattered his body instead of passing through and shattering Toshiro. On the contrary, Toshiro wouldn't have died. It's useless even if you apologize, Mr. Toshiro's death has a lot to do with you. Hadamito looked at Dustless coldly. No. Dustless shook his head and his eyes instantly became extremely terrifying like a hungry beast. That oppressive gaze frightened everyone, as if they were being stared at by a furious king, and their whole body trembled in fear. I should be the one saying that, you have successfully angered me, and it's useless to apologize, no one can save you. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2292. You're courting death. Hearing that Dustless was so arrogant, Yadamiwa could not tolerate it anymore. She waved her bat and smashed it at him without hesitation. Since Zhou Fangzuan's order was to capture Dustless alive, Yadamiwa did not go too far. Instead she held back a little. Bang! The bat smashed toward Dustless's head, but a big hand came and easily caught the iron bat. Ka. Dustless exerted a little force and the bat, which was as thick as a human arm, suddenly collapsed and shattered like a rotten wood. This guy, is he really strong? He doesn't look like it. He's just a gigolo. Looking at the shattered bat, Yadamiwa stared at Dustless's cold face and frowned. She felt like she had kicked an iron plate. Let's see how strong you are. However, Yadamiwa was a gangster after all, and Wailua was also such a violent organization. He was not very smart and liked to solve problems with his fists. Therefore he gently slid his skateboard and suddenly flew toward Dustless. His fist went straight toward Dustless's head. Trash. Seeing this, Dustless grinned and stared at Yadamiwa. He said indifferently, Mokutan, ka. The ground burst open and then, a thick tree came out from the ground and changed according to Dustless's will. The tree, which was thicker than a human, condensed into an arm and punched toward Yadamiwa. You're underestimating me. Seeing this, Yadamiwa was not afraid at all. Her fist was covered with dark red flames and she also punched out. Naive. Wuchen couldn't help but cover his eyes. He didn't want to see the appearance of Hadamiwa being beaten up. This kid still had to contend with Mokutan. Although the power was unlimitedly weakened, it was not something he could contend with. Bang! The power of the wood-released giant fist was too great. It effortlessly sent Hada Misaki flying and she fell miserably more than 10 meters away. Bang! Ka. The glass on the opposite street had been smashed by him, and Hadamiwa was lying among the glass shards in a sorry state. You can beat up Meru? Looks like I underestimated you. Fujian Bigu looked at Dustless with a gloomy expression. He was shocked. At first he thought that this guy was just a pretty boy. His skin was white and he was even prettier than a woman. He was definitely a flowery martial artist. Who would have thought that he would be so terrifying after being provoked? Come. Dustless laughed and waved his hand. He sneered, I want to see how you guys are going to beat me up. To be honest, I really want to be beaten up. Just you wait. Hearing this, Fujian was enraged. He held the scabbard with his right arm and said in a hoarse voice, Fujian pull, swish, swish, swish. Before he could completely pull out his sword, a flash of light came head-on, and Dustless's figure instantly appeared in front of Fujiaku, his right hand on his forehead and his thumb gently flicked. Bang. This seemingly casual attack caused Fujian Yuigu to be severely injured. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his body was sent flying. Ka. A deep hole was formed on the wall more than 10 meters away from him. He was lying in the hole with a pale face, unable to move his body. How can he be so strong? Fujiaku was stunned. He had never dreamed that he would be defeated in seconds, and his opponent was not even a king. An outsider? Why haven't I heard of this person before? Even if he is not a king, his strength is enough to compete with a king. Yadamiwa, who was arrogant a moment ago, took a deep breath and could not help but regret. The order given to him by Zhou Fangzuan was to capture Wu Qin alive. To put it bluntly, he was to bring Wu Qin back in one piece. However, at this moment he had taken the initiative to provoke the other party. Provoking such a powerful enemy seemed to have brought great trouble to Wang Wulua. What's wrong? Don't have the strength to stand up? Dustless walked in front of the two. His aura was calm and he was not affected in the slightest. However, Yadamiwa and Fujiaku were both panting heavily. They had obviously reached their limits. Who are you? Yadamiwa looked at Dustless in fear. Her tone was much more respectful. Her indifferent face was filled with endless coldness as if she was looking at an ant. The human heart is really ugly. Quietly looking down at Yadamiwa, Dustless completely ignored her ugly expression. I didn't mean to go against you guys before, but you guys took an inch and wanted a mile. Why, now that I've shown my strength and got beaten up, do you know that some people are not to be trifled with? What a wretch. Facing Dustless's sarcasm, Yadamiwa was embarrassed. However, Dustless did not go against them before. It was her who kept nagging and refused to let Dustless go. She wanted to make a big deal out of a small matter, which eventually led to this situation. Do you want to continue? Looking down at Yadamiwa and Fujiaku, Dustless said indifferently, small fries like you, 1 or 2, 10 or 100 are actually the same. It won't change anything. Don't be too arrogant. Hearing this, both of them were angry. They didn't know where they got the courage to attack from. It was as if a small universe had erupted. They attacked from different directions at the same time. You guys can be arrogant, why can't I? Dustless asked calmly. At the same time, both of his hands were aimed at the two of them. A ray of light quickly formed and shot straight out. Laser. Puchi. Puchi. The speed of the light was too fast. Yada Miwa and Fujiaku did not even have time to react before the light beam directly penetrated their bodies. It was only half an inch away from the position of their hearts. Plop. Both of them fell to the ground. Although Dustless was merciful and did not take their lives were already hanging by a thread. If no one cared, they would definitely die. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2293. Dustless smiled but did not say anything. As long as this guy did not provoke him, he would not be so bored as to argue with Keiichi. At the end of the day, he was just a piece of trash. Other than the skill Death Return, which was pretty good, his combat power was close to zero. However, Keiichi always used his ability to challenge Dustless. He deserved to be beaten up. Well, although it's too much to say this at this time, please return the badge you stole to me. It's very important to me. Amelia walked up to Ferret and said apologetically. Looking closely, Master Rum was sweating profusely and grimacing in pain. There was a shocking wound on his abdomen. His intestines were cut open by Ilusa. It was a horrible sight. Even his internal organs were cut into pieces. With such a serious injury, there was no doubt that he would die. The injury is quite serious. I thought it was just a minor injury. Dustless walked over slowly and frowned. Give you the badge? Hearing this, Ferret suddenly stopped sobbing and said coldly, if it weren't for you uninvited guests, Master Rum wouldn't have been killed. Hey, are you kidding me? It was you who stole Amelia's badge. Is it wrong for us to come and ask for the badge? Her brows tightly knitted, Keiichi asked with displeasure. But it's a fact that you guys killed Master Rum. Ferret still gritted his teeth and said with a face full of hatred. I'm sorry. This is indeed our responsibility. Amelia blamed herself and apologized. If they hadn't appeared, perhaps Ilusa would have left with the badge after paying the money. But because Amelia, the owner of the badge, had come, Ilusa had turned hostile. Hee. Keiichi suddenly thought of something and smiled wretchedly. She pretended to sigh and said, Sigh? Wuchin, sometimes it's not good to be too observant. You see, you brought us here and caused the death of Master Luo Mu. You brat? Dustless could not help but turn his head. He thought that he was shameless enough, but compared to Keiichi he was not just a little bit worse. Obviously, Keiichi was deliberately tricking him. It's you? It would have been better if he hadn't said anything. The moment he said that, Ferret, who was crying like a pear blossom, glared angrily at Dustless. I say, this old man isn't dead yet, right? You look at him as if I killed him. Dustless felt helpless. Soon after, he said meaningfully, if it wasn't for me, I'm afraid that all of you would have died. This is also the truth. Amelia nodded. Ilusa's strength was extremely powerful. If they were to rely on the few of them, they would definitely die. If it wasn't for Dustless taking action in time, they would definitely end up like Master Ram and be cut off by that female pervert. Humph, you're twisting words and forcing logic. But Kaiwa didn't buy it. She sneered, if you didn't bring us here, none of this would have happened. It's all your fault. You killed Master Luo Mu. Kaiwa voice was filled with tears as she complained about Dustless with hatred. To Kaiwa Dustless was her mortal enemy. Because before the return of death, she had been brutally killed by Dustless several times. Therefore she hated Dustless to the core. Therefore Kaiwa would not let go of any opportunity to take revenge or frame him. I say, you're crying so sadly. This old man can't be your biological father, right? Dustless teased. His words made Kaiwa face turn green with anger. Besides, this old man is still breathing. Who said that he's dead? Dustless asked indifferently. But his internal organs have been destroyed. Even his heart has been split. Even if he's still alive, how long can he last? Amelia shook her head and said, this kind of injury was too serious. Even she was helpless. Hee. Kaiwa laughed sinisterly and said with disdain, maybe to Dustless this kind of injury is not worth mentioning. He can easily treat it. Boy, you've been talking so much nonsense. You're right this time. I can indeed save Master Luo Mu. It's a piece of cake. Dustless looked calm and confident. Ah, are you kidding me? Kaiwa Subaru was stunned and sneered. His heart is destroyed. Can you save Master Luo Mu? Stop dreaming. If you can revive him, I'll call you big brother. No, grandpa. Okay, my good grandson. Dustless grinned, full of ridicule. I haven't done it yet and you're already calling me grandpa. I'm flattered. You bastard, how dare you take advantage of me? Kaiwa Subaru was so angry that he clenched his fists tightly. His knuckles cracked. What's wrong? Are you itching for a beating? Dustless was stunned. A strong killing intent rushed towards Kaiwa Subaru. Phew! Kaiwa Subaru's body suddenly felt like it had fallen into an ice cellar. His mind was controlled by his emotions. This guy in front of him was unreliable. Challenging him was just asking for humiliation. Can you really save Master Luo Mu? If you can do it, I can give you the badge. Ferret looked at Dustless nervously with a sincere face. Dustless. Amelia came over and pulled Dustless's clothes. She said gratefully, you saved my life. I'm already very grateful to you. But Master Luo Mu. Amelia's voice sank at the end. Although she believed in Dustless's ability, how could he revive Master Luo Mu when his internal organs were destroyed? She could even see that Master Luo Mu's heart was shattered. If I can't save him, I'm your grandpa. Kaiwa Subaru looked at Dustless with hatred and disgust. He did not have a good impression of this bastard who killed him 3 times. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 gifts plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2294. Wuxian looked at Kai Yuezue indifferently. He was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. He thought that this kid was an idiot. Why should he talk nonsense with a retard? The injury is really serious. Staring at Master Rom, Dustless frowned slightly. His internal organs were badly mutilated. It's a miracle that he's still alive. Can he be saved? Ferret suddenly grasped Dustless's hands and asked anxiously. Master Rom can be regarded as her only family. It's just a small problem. Dustless smiled confidently with a warm smile on his face, and immediately, under everyone's surprised gaze, he put his hands close to Master Rom's abdomen. His heart was damaged? Then let's create another one. This sounded inconceivable, but it wasn't much of a problem for Silver, who had mastered the yin-yang escape technique. Uzumaki Naruto once used yin-yang release to create a pair of eyes for Kakashi. Now, creating an intact heart is not a problem for Dustless. Buzz. His right hand suddenly erupted with a golden light, and then, under everyone's surprised gaze, this light nourished the badly mutilated body, and the broken part miraculously grew flesh again. Everyone was stupefied, especially Amelia. She covered her small mouth with her right hand and opened it so wide that a fist could fit in it. She looked at Wuxian in disbelief. Amelia knows healing magic, but in the end, it's only used to treat skin injuries. Dustless is so heaven-defying that he can repair damaged organs. Is this something that a human can do? It's a miracle. Master Rom. Ferret saw the healed abdomen and the regenerated internal organs, and her heartbeat, which was about to stop, accelerated again. Hoo-hoo! Seeing that Dustless wasn't spouting nonsense, Ferret and Amelia both breathed a sigh of relief. To the two of them this was the best ending. But someone didn't think so. Really, cured? Seeing this, Keiichi was stunned. She stared at Wuxian. Thinking of the promise she made before, she suddenly regretted it. Do I really have to call him Grandpa? Are you kidding me? Absolutely not. I'd rather die again. Kai Yuamao shook her head like a rattledrum. Calling him Grandpa Dustless would be better than calling him Grandpa Dustless. Especially with Amelia watching from the side, how could Kai Yuamao endure this? Don't you understand? Dustless glanced at Keiichi, who was in a dilemma, and sighed softly in his heart. No matter how many times you have been reincarnated, thousands or tens of thousands of times, in front of absolute strength, you have to bow down. Strength determined the gap between them. In any case, Keiichi was no match for Dustless. All right. About a few minutes later, Master Rom's damaged organs were all recreated by Dustless using yin-yang escape. He also used medical ninjutsu to inject a large amount of life force into the old man's pale cheeks. Thank you, benefactor. After Lord Rum regained consciousness, he bowed to Dustless without saying a word. Get up, it's just a small matter. Dustless smiled faintly. He knew that Master Rom's character was ferocious and frightening, but his nature wasn't bad. Earlier, when Amelia and the others were in danger, Master Rum clearly knew that the enemy was powerful, but he still acted without hesitation. Here you go. Ferret's small face also bloomed with a brilliant smile, very sunny, and bounced the badge to Dustless. Finally I'm free. Looking at the exquisite badge in his hand, Wuxia heaved a sigh of relief and immediately handed it to Amelia with a smile. Miss Amelia, I'll leave it to you to keep. It's time for me to leave. When his voice fell, Dustless shrugged, yawned, and turned to leave. His eyes were a little sleepy and he really wanted to find a place to sleep. Right? Suddenly thinking of something, Dustless's footsteps suddenly stopped, his eyes looked around and immediately frowned. Where did that kid go? You mean, Subaru? Thinking of the grudge between them, Amelia immediately understood Dustless's intention. After all, there was also the bet just now. That kid tricked me 3 or 4 times. If I don't break his leg, I can't vent the hatred in my heart, Dustless said to himself. Break my leg. Hiding behind a rock, the corner of Kaiwa Subaru's mouth twitched. When she was about to get up and run for her life, a flash suddenly appeared in front of her, and Dustless's body appeared. Fulfill the bet or let me break one of your legs, choose one. Dustless smiled very kindly, but in Kaiwa Subaru's eyes, it was more terrifying than a demon. Grandpa, forced into a corner, Kaiwa Subaru finally opened her mouth in shame. The moment her voice fell, her whole face was bright red as if it was on fire. She couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. She had lost all her face. Dustless, I'll definitely tear you into pieces. Kaiwa Subaru swore in her heart, her cheeks were twisted. Come if you're not afraid of torture. Dustless turned his head and didn't say anything. Since he had already offended this kid, it didn't matter if he offended him completely. He wasn't afraid of him anyway. Wait. Just when Dustless was about to leave, Amelia suddenly stopped him and trotted in front of Dustless. She said embarrassedly, It's all my fault before. If you don't mind, you can stay in my house for a few days. Stay in your house? Dustless's face was full of confusion. After thinking for a while, he didn't seem to have anywhere to go. Okay then, I have nowhere to go anyway. Lucky guy. Seeing this, Kaiwa Subaru was envious and jealous. Why wasn't she as lucky as Dustless? P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2295. Dustless didn't care about Kaituki Subaru's complicated expression. Since he had nowhere else to go, he might as well leave with Amelia. He didn't have much ambition, and there was nothing in this world that could tempt Dustless. All he wanted was to find a place to eat and fill his stomach. Even though Amelia was still prejudiced against him, she had let it go in the end. No matter what, finding a place to stay for the night was better than wandering alone. Get out of here, Dustless scolded Kaituki Subaru. After all, Amelia didn't invite him to stay at her place. Don't be a busybody. Amelia didn't even say anything. Who are you to be so long-winded? Glaring at Dustless, Kaituki Subaru shamelessly walked to Amelia and complained, I'm lost and I can't remember the way home. Can I stay at your place for a while? If it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't agree to let someone stay at their place, but Amelia was different. This innocent girl was too kind. No problem, come back with us. Amelia's face bloomed with a gentle smile, like a blooming flower intoxicating people. Umph. Hearing this, Kaiwa Subaru nodded quickly. Then she glanced at Wuxia valiantly and proudly as if she was the winner. This idiot, does he really think that it's good to stay at that pervert's house? Isn't it better to just casually find a place, get a wife without any worries, and live out the rest of your life in mediocrity? Why does he have to court death? That clown isn't easy to deal with. Kaituki Subaru, this idiot is really brainless. As a transmigrator, he naturally knew what Amelia's so-called home was. It was the home of Rosval L. Mazes, who was also the ruler of the border Marquis. There was also a pair of sisters who were naturally dumb but very wary of others, Ram and Beatrice, who was responsible for guarding the library. And Dustless also understood that the person who hired Elusa this time was actually Rosval L. Mazes. This guy was quite smart. He also knew the identity of Kaituki Subaru, knew that he came from another world, and also knew that Kaituki Subaru had the ability to change the world. It was worth mentioning that Rosvar held one of the gospel, and could predict the future to a certain extent. According to the hints of the gospel, he knew that after slaying the dragon and getting the dragon's blood, he could resurrect his teacher, the Witch of Lust, who was also Rosvar's lover. He didn't even mind killing the most reliable person to resurrect the Witch of Lust. So Kaituki Subaru took the initiative to live with Rosvals as a matter of course. Since you don't want to live a leisurely life, then live a good life to live in hell. As well to stay was to stay as well as he was to stay. His stay with him. If he died, Dustless would also fall into his trap, which was extremely troublesome. That's why he felt that this kid was annoying. Wouldn't it be better for him to disappear peacefully? Why did he have to come out and seek death? Are you jealous of me? I'm telling you, Dustless, our battle has just begun, and I won't give Amelia to you. Kaituki Subaru leaned close to Dustless's ear and announced proudly. Is that so? Dustless was not angry. He glanced at Kaituki Subaru lightly and said, to be fair, I'm really not interested in that silver-haired girl. I'm immune to young people's love. Compared with that kind of boring thing, I prefer to sleep. And if I want something, I can just grab it. Why should I care about other people's feelings? This is the privilege of the strong. Then why are you still pestering Amelia? Kaituki Subaru said unkindly. Wu Chen suddenly smirked twice and said sarcastically, I'm not interested in her, but I don't want you to carry a beauty home even more. Living together with a good-for-nothing like you, it's really hard on her. You. Wait and see. Kaituki Subaru's face turned red because of Dustless's words. This was a typical act of sabotage. Even if Dustless could not get something, he would not let Kaituki Subaru get it even if he smashed it. After about an hour's journey, Dustless and Kaituki Subaru followed Amelia to a magnificent villa. What a big house. Kaituki Subaru looked at the villa in front of him like a country bumpkin. Did I worry too much before? Looking at Kaituki Subaru's idiotic face, Dustless always felt that he had overestimated this kid. Just by looking at his appearance, he knew that this kind of idiot had been killed by someone. Who knew who the murderer was? Lady Amelia. In the luxurious hall, two sisters in maid uniforms stood respectfully in front of Amelia. Obviously they were the servants of this mansion. The two sisters looked exactly the same. The only difference was that one of them had blue hair and blue eyes, while the other had pink hair and pink eyes. The one with blue hair seems to be Rem, and the pink one seems to be Lamo. Looking at the two sisters, Dustless showed a friendly and gentle smile. Although he was talking to himself, his words angered Kaituki Subaru, who had always been against him. Rem? Your mother? You bastard, are you scolding me? Dustless. Kaituki Subaru looked at Dustless angrily. This bastard dared to scold her most respected mother. It was unforgivable. Are you King kidding me? Dustless's mouth twitched. Finally, he helplessly covered his face. He really had to give in to this weirdo. There was no cure for him. No wonder he had been killed several times when he had just entered the other world. His IQ was really high. Could it be that the witch who summoned Kaituki Subaru is also blind? She found such a retard to make up the numbers. What a joke. Dustless complained in his heart. Kaituki Subaru's IQ was really unflattering. No wonder Dustless was judged as the most tragic male lead of the year before he had transmigrated. He had to be killed 5 or 6 times before he realized who was the one who had tricked him. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 reviews plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 2296. Although Dustless didn't know why these people valued him so much that they were willing to surround the entire Reed Academy to find him, he guessed that it was because he had almost killed Fu Jian. That was the only grudge he had with the King of Blue. Remember, search every teacher in this school one by one. Investigate their background, identity, and the location of their families, the head of ritual rites said solemnly. We cannot forgive the arrogant bastard who dared to provoke Scepter 4. We must make him understand the price he has to pay for provoking us. Make the enemy pay a heavy price. The declaration of the Ancestral Statue Rights Division was like the bugle horn before the attack. Everyone was impassioned, and everyone swore that they would capture the bastard who provoked them and torture him. Leader, isn't this a little too much? It's unwise to surround the school rashly. It's the same as the Red Clan. A beautiful woman frowned. Her name was Danjima Shiri, and she was a loyal member of the head of ritual rites. Shiri, do you think this is too much? The head of ritual rites' eyes flashed with wisdom. She smiled faintly and said, You must think that only Zhou Fang would act so rashly, but I have to tell you that I would do the same thing. That bastard almost killed our comrade. If we don't find him, who would look at Scepter 4 in the eye? This is a matter of dignity. I understand. Danjima Shiri nodded slightly. For a clan like Scepter 4, dignity was very important. They couldn't tolerate being humiliated. However, Dustless's actions were equivalent to slapping Scepter 4 in the face. Hey. Are all these people here for me? To be honest, I'm flattered. I've only just arrived and I've already become the center of attention. On the deserted main road, a lazy voice suddenly struck and entered everyone's ears. This voice wasn't loud, but everyone heard it clearly because this person was too arrogant. However, it doesn't matter how many cats and dogs there are. It's meaningless. You're the leader of Scepter 4, the King of Blue from the Ancestral Right Division, aren't you? Dustless walked over step by step with his hands in his pockets and a gentle smile in his eyes. You dare to take the initiative to come to me? Dan Shirley looked coldly at Dustless, not bothering to hide his murderous intent. Their number 3, Fuji Arubigu, was almost killed by this guy. This guy actually dared to show his face in public. He was simply not afraid of death. Why don't you dare to come out? Dustless met Danjima Shiri's gaze. At first, I thought that you were here to thank me. After all, I spared Fujiwara's life. In my opinion, you should be grateful. If I had known that you would come to me like this, I would have chopped that guy into 8 pieces and hung his corpse at the entrance of Scepter 4. Everyone's expression changed when they heard this. Their hearts were in their throats. Even Danjima Shiri was stunned. This guy was too arrogant. He actually dared to talk about chopping Fuji Arubigu into 8 pieces in front of the Ancestral Right Division. Wasn't this a slap to the King of Blue's face? You're very good. The Ancestral Right Division's face was ashen. The veins on his arms were bulging. There was no doubt that he was enraged. If his opponent was a king, he could reluctantly accept it. After all, they were both kings. However, Dustless was just an outsider. What right did he have to challenge him? Are you surprised? Are you shocked? All along, you kings have been too arrogant. You can't accept being slapped in the face. You think it's a great humiliation, right? Dustless curled his lips in disdain. The corner of his mouth lifted into a mocking smile. I don't mind telling you that I didn't mean to call you a piece of trash. You're just one of the trash. I meant to tell you that all kings are just trash in my eyes. The moment he said this, everyone in Scepter 4 went numb. Their minds were in a mess. This guy was taking their lives as a joke. The kings were the representatives of supremacy. No one had ever dared to challenge them. And Dustless had insulted all the kings. He had offended all of them. This country could forget about living well in the future. The Ancestral Right Division didn't say anything. He used his next action to express everything. Ancestral Right Division, draw your sword. Clang. With an ear-piercing roar, the sword on the Ancestral Right Division's waist was unsheathed. Under the sunlight, the sharp sword was extremely dazzling. No one dared to look at it directly. Don't you want to come at me together? Wuxian was calm and collected. His face didn't show any sign of loosening or fear from beginning to end. Enough. I can kill you alone. The Ancestral Right Division refused coldly. He stepped forward at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, the tip of his sword was about to pierce Dustless's throat. Die. The Ancestral Right Division roared. The sharp sword in his hand suddenly pierced forward. The tip of the sword was surrounded by azure waves. That was the power of a king that belonged only to him. It wasn't hard to see that the Ancestral Right Division really wanted to kill Dustless. Naturally, Dustless wouldn't show any mercy. Boom, boom, boom. An unparalleled aura erupted, like an ancient dragon that had just awoken. Just as the tip of the sword was about to pierce through Dustless's body, the Ancestral Statue Rights Minister, who was affected by this aura, suddenly paled and was sent flying. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2297. Time quickly passed. Dustless was sleeping very soundly. Even if someone tried to assassinate him, they might be able to succeed. When he woke up, Rem and Lam were standing in front of Dustless. You didn't assassinate me and then my body automatically healed, right? Staring at the two sisters for a few seconds, Wuxian seemed to be joking, but also seemed to be serious. Customer, you must be joking. Rem and Lam have been waiting for you to wake up. Why would we harm you? As the elder sister, Lam spoke first and glanced at Remington. Rem nodded and walked over with her clothes. She boldly lifted Dustless's blanket and saw Dustless's naked body without blushing at all. Ew. What are you doing? Dustless asked in surprise. helping the customer put on his clothes. Lam also took Dustless's clothes and walked over. The two sisters looked at Dustless from both sides. No need. You can all leave. I can take care of this myself. Wuxia waved his hand and immediately grabbed the clothes of the two sisters. One who was unaccountably solicitous was hiding evil intentions. Perhaps the two sisters felt that there was something wrong with him, so they made such an outrageous move to test him. Oh right. Suddenly thinking of something, Wuxia looked at the two sisters without blinking and asked, You didn't hear bad things about me from Kai Yuemao, did you? Customer, you must be mistaken. That customer named Kai Yueshu didn't say anything bad about you. On the contrary, he said a lot of good things about you. Rem's tone was filled with disdain, as if she was mocking Dustless's narrow-mindedness. That kid said good things about me? Dustless almost jumped up as if he was struck by lightning. His face was filled with disbelief. That Kai Yueshu wanted to kill him as soon as possible. How could he say good things about him? What did he say? Dustless ignored Rem's disdainful look. He really wanted to hear what Kai Yuemu said about him. He said that you are handsome and strong, and that you can defeat a group of strong people by yourself. He told us to think highly of you and if possible choose you as our spouse. Rem looked at Dustless seriously. He didn't look like he was mocking Dustless. What does that brat mean? Dustless wasn't happy at all. Instead he couldn't help but frown. Why did Kai Yueshu suddenly change her temperament and help him pick up girls? This unrealistic idea was abandoned by Dustless at the first moment. Is there anything else? Dustless asked, feeling a little strange. There are still some. Lam lowered his head and thought for a while. Then he said that you defeated Ilusa, the gut hunter, and that you're very strong. You can destroy a town by yourself. That brat. So that's what he's doing. How is that a compliment? He's obviously trying to kill me. That good for nothing, his strength is average, but his ability to scheme is impressive. Dustless suddenly understood. At the same time, he looked at the two girls from the corner of his eyes. He could clearly feel that compared to before, the surveillance was much more obvious now. They were almost staring at Dustless, not letting go of any suspicious movements. Dustless was wondering why the two girls took the initiative to check his body. If he guessed correctly, they were trying to find some clues. Kai Yueshu exaggerated Dustless's strength. Rem and Lam would definitely think that Dustless was suspicious, so they kept a close watch on him. For example, they would watch him even when he was sleeping. They were digging a hole for Dustless to jump into. That brat. Dustless's eyebrows flickered, and he guessed in his heart, this ability of foresight, is it the skill of the samsara of death, again? For some things, Kai Yueshu always had the upper hand. According to Dustless's guess, it was the so-called rewind skill. He could get information about Dustless from infinite deaths. He really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Does he think he's so great just because he has a golden finger? Dustless muttered, then he immediately put on his clothes and laughed secretly, but that brat's ability to transfer hatred is very good. I guess Kai Yueshu also knows that the two sisters are not good for him. After all, there's the smell of a witch. So he deliberately praised me and got close to Amelia. That's why the two sisters are watching me when I'm sleeping. In fact, the two sisters didn't kill him, which showed that they were still suspicious of Dustless. Lord Roswald has returned and invited the guests to have dinner together. The two sisters said seriously, and when they mentioned Roswald, their faces were respectful. I'm hungry, lead the way. Dustless smiled. Since he was here, he would meet the mastermind behind the scenes sooner or later. You'd better be sensible. It's a pity that such a beautiful villa doesn't have an owner. Looking at the gorgeous and pleasant courtyard, Dustless muttered to himself, and there was a trace of horrible murderous intent in his words. The restaurant used for dining with guests was brightly lit and extremely luxurious. It's so lively. Dustless, who was let in, looked around and found that everyone was ready except for him. You have a lot of face. It was fine if he didn't see Dustless, but when he saw Dustless, Kayatsuki Subaru said in a strange tone, If I didn't know, I would have thought that you were the owner of this house. Kayatsuki Subaru looked at Dustless very unscrupulously. Although he knew that Dustless was powerful, he was not afraid. He could rewind infinitely, which was equivalent to an immortal body. This kid is really self-righteous. Dustless was too lazy to care about Kayatsuki Subaru and sat down naturally. He was not a waste like Kayatsuki Subaru, so he didn't need to be restrained. This must be Dustless. Thanks to you, otherwise Lord Amelia would have fallen. Roswald, who was sitting at the head of the table, was dressed in a clown costume and looked at Dustless with gratitude. This guy really knows how to pretend, and he pretends so well as if everything has nothing to do with him. Humans really do rely on tricks to survive. They're all great actors. Dustless smiled and didn't say anything. In fact, the person who hired Gut Hunter Ilusa was Roswald. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2298. This person's background was clearly extraordinary. Although he was extremely old and had white hair and beard, no one dared to underestimate him. Especially when he appeared and realized who this old man was, the ancestral statue religion minister's berserk aura dissipated. His expression changed slightly, and he looked at the old man respectfully and said, "It's been a long time since we last met. I didn't expect you to come in person." The old man did not speak. He just looked at the ancestral statue rites and nodded. Finally, he frowned and looked at Dustless. He was slightly deep, biting cold and puzzled. "You don't have to look. You want to see through me, old man? I really don't mean to discourage you, but to me you're too weak." After a long silence, Dustless withdrew his gaze from the Golden King. His eyes were calm. This guy. Does he really think he's made of diamonds? That he can withstand this old man's attack? Not to mention others, even the ancestral statue rites broke out in cold sweat. He could not help but give Dustless a thumbs up. He knew the Golden King's character very well. He was serious, meticulous, and could not be provoked. And most importantly, although the Golden King was old, he was still very strong. He was almost invincible among all the kings. It seems that there will be a fierce battle next. The ancestral statue rites was very sure that the Golden King was provoked. If he kept quiet, would he still be the invincible Golden King? Moreover, if he tolerated it today, there might be other kings who would challenge his dignity in the future. Some things, once set a precedent, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, the ancestral statue rites was 100% sure that the Golden King and Dustless would have a fierce battle. When the time came, he could take the opportunity to deal with Dustless. "I'm old. I'm not as good as you young people." Just when everyone thought the situation was about to go out of control and it was likely to evolve into a battle between the kings, the Golden King's sudden words made everyone almost bite their tongues. Their expressions were extremely strange. Even the ancestral statue rites looked at the Golden King in disbelief. These words were undoubtedly admitting defeat. In his opinion, this old man had always fought. When had he ever bowed his head? But now he actually admitted defeat. Am I dreaming? Even the usually calm and wise ancestral rite division widened his eyes in horror. He stared straight at the Golden King as if trying to see through his flaws, thinking that the old man was acting. When Dustless was careless, he would give him a fatal blow. But from the beginning to the end, the Golden King just looked at Dustless quietly, without the slightest sign of fighting. "Make it short. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't waste my time." Dustless waved his hand and said bluntly, "Although I'm also very leisurely, I'm not so bored as to chat with an old man. I'd rather sleep with the extra time. My reason for coming is very simple." Hearing this, the Golden King was not angry. He said seriously, "If you and Zhongzhou fight, this city will inevitably suffer a devastating blow. My purpose here is very simple. I hope you can stop this duel. It was originally a small matter, so I hope you won't make a big fuss." "Destroy this city? Maybe." Dustless nodded thoughtfully and then said lightly, "But I can tell you clearly that before this city is destroyed, that kid will die on the spot. Don't think that others are made of mud and don't overestimate yourself." The ancestral rite division's face turned red. How could he tolerate being looked down upon by Dustless? "Shut up, Zhongzhou." The Golden King glared fiercely at the ancestral rite division and scolded, "Your subordinate is asking for humiliation." He clearly knows that he's not his opponent, but he still stubbornly challenged others. He's lucky that he wasn't killed. As a person, he should know his own limits. An ant should have the despair of an ant. He recklessly provoked someone stronger than him. Even if he was killed, who could he blame for that? But this guy is related to the Colorless King. He must know about the Colorless King. Fu Jian was just following the rules. The ancestral rite division said unwillingly, "He's not wrong, but this guy didn't cooperate at all. Instead, he hurt my people." "Rules?" Hearing this, Dustless sneered. "You're a king after all. Don't you know that rules only restrict the weak? Or let me ask you this. Will you obey the rules set by others?" These are two different things. Don't talk nonsense. The Ancestral Right Division was really speechless after hearing Dustless's words. He didn't know how to refute Dustless. Zhongzhou, take your people and leave. This matter ends here. The Golden King was expressionless, and his tone had a hint of supreme command. Boom boom boom. As soon as he finished speaking, the Golden King's aura burst out, surging like a raging wave. It was unstoppable and swept across the entire place. Everyone's expression changed drastically, and their bodies began to sway. The Ancestral Right Division's expression changed drastically. His breathing was a little hurried, and there were bean-sized beads of sweat on both sides of his temples. Do you know the difference now? The Golden King's tone was indifferent. He looked at the Ancestral Right Division, and his eyes were extremely threatening. They were as dazzling as the sun, and no one dared to look at him directly. The Ancestral Right Division was naturally unconvinced. He tried his best to straighten his back and looked at the Golden King. I won't. The Ancestral Right Division's words stopped abruptly because the Golden King pointed in the direction of Dustless. He also looked over and his pupils suddenly shrank. He was immediately terrified. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2299. Agreed? It shouldn't be. He should have directly rejected Dustless. Kayatsuki Subaru was confused and couldn't help but curse in his heart. Why didn't I think of becoming the housekeeper of this family? It's really a mistake. I will be commanded by this guy in the future. Looking at Dustless's smiling face, Kayatsuki Subaru was depressed, and his back was a little cold. He had been plotting against Dustless before, and now this guy had seized the opportunity. He would certainly not let him go easily. Don't think that I'm easy to bully. At worst, we will all die together. Looking up at Dustless, Kayatsuki Subaru's eyes were full of resentment and hatred, thinking that he was tricked by Dustless because he was one step behind. But Kayatsuki Subaru had no chance to turn back at this moment. After all, what was done could not be undone. Time passed quickly and the dinner gradually came to an end. Everyone had different complicated thoughts, although they were still talking and laughing during the dinner, but in fact they were already divided. Roswald first hated Dustless and so did Kayatsuki Subaru. The two were destined to fight to the death. After all, before the samsara of death, he was slaughtered by Dustless countless times, and even his body was fed to the dogs. Kayatsuki Subaru had been burying this deep hatred in his heart, so he always targeted Dustless in all aspects. The two were destined to be enemies like fire and water. Gulp. After eating and drinking, Kayatsuki Subaru lay on the chair and rested comfortably, during which he also chatted with Amelia, but she was cold and indifferent. As for why, Kayatsuki Subaru knew that it was because he had falsely accused Dustless before, and after the truth came out, Amelia was somewhat alienated from him, and Dustless also saved her, so Amelia's impression of Dustless had greatly changed. But even so, Kayatsuki Subaru was not the kind of person who would give up easily. Even if he lost a round, it was impossible for him to give up and admit defeat. After all, Kayatsuki Subaru had always been convinced that he was a man with a protagonist aura, a visitor from another world, and Dustless was nothing to him. Haha, Kayaya Subaru belched contentedly. When she was about to go back to her room to rest, Wu Chen's angry voice came from the opposite side. You scum, why don't you go and clean up the table for me? You want to sleep after eating? Are you a pig? Why? After being stunned for a moment, Kaiwa Subaru asked. Didn't you just say that you want to be a servant in this family? Isn't it your job to clean up the bowls? Dustless gloated. You win. Hearing this, the corner of Keiichi Subaru's mouth twitched violently. Unknowingly, he seemed to have dug a big hole for himself. I'll play you to death slowly in the future. Don't think that having an immortal body is a good thing. Dustless sneered and left. A thick killing intent flashed across his face. Before leaving, he did not forget to look coldly at Roswald. Time flew by like a white horse. In the blink of an eye, a few hours had passed. The sky was completely dark. In the dead of the night, the stars in the sky were beautiful, but there was an indescribable silence. What do you think of those two people? In the quiet study, Roswald stared at the quiet night sky. Contrary to the casual and natural clown during dinner, Roswald's eyes were deep now, like bottomless stagnant water. Just by looking at this expression, one would know that he was a cunning opponent. Both of them are dangerous. Ram bowed his head and pondered for a while and immediately said with caution, Dustless is very powerful and unfathomable, and that Kayuezwa looks silly, but actually wants to deliberately get close to Lady Amelia. Both of them are very suspicious. Yes, what you said makes sense, but I think that Dustless is more dangerous. Roswald's eyes narrowed slightly, emitting a dangerous light. Then do you want to? Ram didn't continue to say more. The meaning of the action of cutting his throat was self-evident. That's not necessary. Roswald shook his head gently. He still had a vague understanding of Dustless's strength. After all, even the gut hunter Ilusa, who was previously hired, was crushed. If Ram went to challenge Dustless alone, the result would definitely be the same. Then how do we deal with Dustless? Such a dangerous guy will have an accident in all likelihood. Ram frowned and asked. Her killing intent also disappeared. She had never refused Roswald's orders and obeyed unconditionally. Just find a way to get him away. There is no need to fall out with him, but this matter needs to be done carefully. You should understand that Lady Amelia is a grateful person. Dustless saved her, so she must be very grateful. Finding a groundless reason to drive away Dustless is definitely not going to work. Lady Amelia will definitely not be willing. Roswald analyzed wisely, but in fact he was also having a headache. When it came to Dustless, there was nothing he could do. To Roswald, Dustless was like a hedgehog with spikes all over his body. If he approached Dustless rashly, not only would he not get any benefits, but he would also be stabbed by Dustless and the whole plan may fail. However, although Roswald was unwilling to be an enemy of a jinx like Dustless, some people did not think so. Just like in the original work, in front of Dustless's room, an uninvited guest appeared at this moment with a scary meteor hammer in his hand. Without a doubt, the only person who could wield this weapon was Remington. The meteor hammer was dragged on the ground, emitting a terrifying ka-ka-ka sound. It sounded extremely oppressive and frightening. If it was that idiot Kayuemu, he might have already been knocked down. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2300. The girl that came into view was wearing the school uniform of Reed Academy. She looked to be about 17 or 18 years old. She had short hair and a cute face. Although she wasn't devastatingly beautiful, she could still be considered a beauty. Her figure was also quite good and she had a curvaceous figure. Don't look. Seeing that Dustless was in a daze, Kat was annoyed. She hugged him from behind and used her white hands to block Dustless's eyes. You can't walk when you see a beautiful woman. You're really lousy. Don't tell me I'm not as good looking as this guy? Kat hugged Wuxia tightly. Her cleavage squeezed onto his body and became a round pancake shape. Little girl, what nonsense are you talking about? Dustless snorted and took Kat's little hand away. After confirming that he did not see wrongly, he asked, Student, your name is Shui Ranju, right? Teacher, you know me? Shui Ranju was stunned for a moment. She immediately apologized embarrassedly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bump into you. It was an emergency. No need to apologize. If you have something to do, go do it. Dustless showed a gentle smile and then left. In the quiet teaching building, Dustless and Kat walked side by side. By the way, remember not to be alone in the future. Be careful, do you hear me? Suddenly thinking of something, Dustless said to Kat seriously, If there's nothing, don't leave my side. Are you interested in me? Kat blinked her eyes playfully and looked at Dustless with great interest. Her face was full of expectation. If your butt was a little more perky, your chest a little bigger, your temper a little better, and you weren't always so naughty, maybe I would reluctantly lower myself to look at you a few more times. If I'm in a good mood one day, I might really like you. Staring at Kat again and again, Dustless's words hit her so hard that her face turned red. Even if you like me, I don't want you. Kat hugged her chest and snorted with a face full of displeasure. Let's get down to business. Although King Colorless is afraid of me, you still have to be wary of him, understand? Dustless was too lazy to talk nonsense with the girl. He said seriously, Don't be alone, especially when that guy has the ability to invade your body. I can easily drive him out of my body, but if he invades your body, I can't do anything. I can only kill you or wait for him to come out. I understand. Hearing Dustless's serious tone, the cat nodded seriously. The other place was the Kusanagi Izumos bar, which was where Veda Wullo usually gathered. To a certain extent, this was Veda Wullo's headquarters. However, unlike usual, there were only a few people in this bar, including Danjima Shiri, Ancestral Statue Rights Division, and Fuji Arubigu. On Fei Wuloa's side there were Zhou Fangzuan, Chana, Kusanagi Izumo, and the others. You took the initiative to look for me? That's rare. Are you here for a fight? Zhou Fangzuan lit a cigarette and looked at the Ancestral Statue Rights Division casually. Not really. To be honest, fighting with people like you is always boring. Every time it ends in a draw. Also, you know the state of your sword of Damocles, right? The Ancestral Statue Rights Division said slowly. Immediately, his gaze became incomparably deep, and there was a trace of unwillingness in his tone. I came here this time to pass you an order. Is this a joke? Pass us an order? Since when did the one in blue become our immediate superior? The corner of Hata Misaki's mouth raised, revealing a disdainful smile. Misaki, there's no room for you to interrupt. Fuji Arubigu also showed a disdainful expression. Seeing this, everyone shook their heads. They all knew that these two were sworn enemies. You're mistaken. I said to pass you an order. I didn't say it was my order. I'm just passing on a message. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division shook his head lightly. He didn't get angry, as if Hata Misaki wasn't worth his attention. Someone else's order? Zhou Fangzuan stepped on the cigarette butt and said with a trace of ridicule, Since when did you become someone else's lackey? From a king to a lackey your status dropped really fast. Although Zhou Fangzuan was usually a man of few words, he wasn't bad at scolding people. It's true that I'm his lackey, but aren't you too? The Ancestral Statue Rights Division maintained his elegance and calmness. His eyes were as calm as water, without the slightest ripple. You mean, hearing the Ancestral Statue Rights Division's words, Zhou Fangzuan raised his eyebrows. He had already vaguely guessed who it was, but he still asked with some uncertainty, that old man? Who else is there besides him? The strongest king, Golden King. Looking at the ceiling, the Ancestral Statue Rights Division exhaled heavily with a trace of displeasure. It seems that you've met and you've probably lost. There were some ripples in Zhou Fangzuan's tone. Although he was arrogant and had confidence in everything, but in the face of the Golden King, courage alone was useless. That was the difference in strength. That old man is really old. I remember that he's more than 90 years old, right? Zhou Fangzuan shook his head with a rare trace of helplessness. He lowered his head and said, He's so old, but his temper seems to be hotter than us young people. Really? What did he ask you to tell me? The content is very simple. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division's face changed slightly, and his unwillingness became more obvious. He doesn't allow us to find trouble with that dustless. Why? Zhou Fangzuan frowned and asked, What's the relationship between the two of them? I'm not sure. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division shrugged and added, This is an absolute order. If we dare to make a move on Dustless, that guy will personally come and find trouble with us. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2301. As soon as the voice of the Ancestral Statue Rights fell, the noisy scene suddenly became silent. Everyone looked at each other. They did not expect the high and mighty Golden King to give such an order. What was so special about Dustless? Everyone could not figure it out. That guy called Dustless, what is so special about him that the Golden King thinks so highly of him? I really don't understand. He is not one of the kings. Why does the old man think so highly of him? He is even willing to fall out with all the kings. Zhou Fangzuan's face was gloomy and ugly. He, who had always been quiet, suddenly became talkative. I don't know. But don't underestimate that guy. The eyes of the Ancestral Statue Rights shone with a cold light. In terms of strength he may surpass you and me. Once he fights with that guy he may destroy this city. That's why the old Golden King stopped us from finding trouble with him. Zhou Fangzuan just snorted. I am the Red King. That old man is the Golden King. I am not a member of his clan. I don't need to listen to his orders. You haven't changed at all, Zhou Fangzuan. The Ancestral Statue Rights was calm. He looked at Zhou Fangzuan quietly as if he had expected him to say that. I have passed the message to you. Goodbye. The Ancestral Statue Rights did not want to say more. He knew Zhou Fangzuan's character. He would not give up his plan just because of the Golden King's order. Zhou Fangzuan valued his companions very much, especially Toshiro. He was an elder who had been following him. How could he give up just because of the Golden King? Dream on. Wait, ancestral statue. Zhou Fangzuan suddenly turned his head and looked at the ancestral statue rights. He asked coldly, "You mean, that guy called Dustless is in Reed Academy, right?" "That's right." The ancestral statue rights nodded and left without saying a word. "I'm going to meet that guy." Zhou Fangzuan lit another cigarette and took a puff. A light flashed in his eyes. "Are you sure?" The Ancestral Right Division stopped and looked at the serious Zhou Fangzuan, then looked at Kusanagi Izumo, Senming Anna, and the others. "Do you plan to bring all your clan members?" "No. I alone am enough." Zhou Fangzuan's words were shocking, causing everyone to look at him in astonishment. "If it's really as you said, that guy is really strong. He's not a king, but he's stronger than a king. Even if I bring the others, it won't be of any use." Zhou Fangzuan was unexpectedly calm as he said calmly, "So, I plan to meet him personally. Although that guy isn't the one who caused Tatsuya's death, he is the only one who has seen the colorless king. There are some things I must ask him. Take care of yourself. Good luck." After giving Reverend Zhou a deep look, the Ancestral Statue Rights Division didn't waste any more words and quietly left. Finally he closed his eyes. From the very beginning, the Ancestral Right Division had no intention of succeeding. He understood Zhou Fangzuan too well. He would not give up just because the enemy was too strong. He would only stand his ground until the end. Therefore, the Golden King's order could not restrain Zhou Fangzuan at all. Even if he had to pay with his life, he would avenge his companions. Reed Academy. Ever since Dustless became a teacher here, life had not been as leisurely as before. There were always some students with weak bodies who came to the health room. The weather was gradually getting colder. There were all kinds of serious illnesses. Although Wu Qin had never been a doctor, he was quite handy in dealing with some small illnesses. It was also easy to solve them. Boom, boom, boom. Just then, a violent explosion swept across the area, as if there was an earthquake. The entire teaching building shook violently, and almost all the glass shattered. "This entrance is really rough, but it suits your personality." Dustless walked to the window and saw a red-haired man walking over alone from afar. The corner of his mouth curled into a faint smile. This person was Zhou Fangzuan. Without a doubt, he was definitely here to cause trouble for Dustless. He was the only one who knew about the colorless king. Meow meow meow, the cat came out of nowhere and rested its head on Dustless's shoulder. "Didn't that domineering old man say that all the kings are not allowed to disturb us?" "That may be the case, but there are always exceptions to everything," Dustless answered casually. At the same time, he jumped out of the window and looked straight at Zhou Fangzuan, who was walking slowly toward him. "You can fly." Zhou Fangzuan's calm eyes rippled. He looked rather shocked, but it quickly disappeared. "You've made such a big commotion. Can I take it that you're here to cause trouble?" The Red King Zhou Fangzuan. With both hands in his pockets, Dustless kept a smile on his face. "You're right to think so, but I'm not here to fight." Zhou Fangzuan put out the cigarette in his hand and looked Dustless in the eyes. He said calmly, "I just think that with such a big commotion, our next conversation should go smoother. You're such a violent guy." Dustless touched his chin and stared at the teaching building that was destroyed by Zhou Fangzuan. This kind of greeting gift is really annoying. Hearing this, Zhou Fangzuan didn't say anything. He just stared straight at Dustless. Although he didn't say anything, his eyes were guarded against Dustless. His eyes were full of caution. "Your little brothers are here." Suddenly looking at a few figures in the distance, Dustless reminded him. It was Hata Miko, Kusanagi Izumo, and a gothic lowly girl named Anna. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2302. Zhou Fangzuan wasn't as happy as expected when he saw his followers. Instead, he frowned and said with dissatisfaction, "Who asked you to come? Go back now. If we let our king fight alone, then we're not qualified to be his allies." Hata Miko smiled and said casually, "If the other clans know about this, they'll definitely scold us for being deserters." "That's right. If we let you fight alone, those people in blue will laugh at us again, Fangzuan." Kusanagi Izumo nodded with a smile and looked at Dustless like a hawk. "It doesn't matter to me, but it doesn't matter how many people come." Dustless shrugged casually under everyone's gaze. It was as if it didn't matter how many people came. His words were filled with disdain. Also, instead of thinking about how to defeat me, why don't you think about how to defeat that Golden King? You guys ignored his orders. That old man must be very angry. Dustless squinted his eyes and said with a mocking tone, "You don't have to worry about that." Zhou Fangzuan looked at Dustless indifferently and said in a deep voice, "About your relationship with the colorless king, are you going to tell us yourself or do we have to do it?" "Let's do it. I'm just asking for a beating." Dustless grinned. Everyone's expression changed when they heard what he said. This guy was indeed a freak among freaks. Who said that he was asking for a beating? Actually, if you're willing to lower your heads and beg me, I might really tell you some information about the colorless king if I'm in a good mood. However, you've chosen the wrong path. You actually want to use force to coerce me. I've always been amenable to coaxing but not coercion. After saying that, Dustless disappeared without a trace. Where did he go? Everyone was greatly astonished. They looked left and right to search for traces of Wu Qian. Why did he disappear like a ghost? Be careful. Zhou Fangzuan yelled and looked at Anna. She was the weakest in terms of combat power. Anna, dodge. Behind you. Zhou Fangzuan reminded her loudly. Suddenly, he saw a black shadow floating behind Anna. Such a beautiful little girl, how could I be willing to destroy such a beautiful flower? On the other side, behind Zhou Fangzuan, a ghostly whisper suddenly came. That was just an afterimage created by moving too fast. My target is still you, King of Red Zhou Fangzuan. Good timing. Hearing this, venerable Zhou Fangzuan did not even turn his head. He stomped his feet on the ground and a cracking sound spread out. Then, his body was like a flamethrower and a large number of flames burst out. Boom boom boom. The demonic crimson flame burned fiercely. Even steel would be melted in an instant. The black shadow behind Zhou Fangzuan was the first to be affected. No matter who it was, as long as they were hit by this flame, they would either die or be injured. Ah! Suddenly Yadamiwa laughed. Suddenly, she noticed that the black shadow behind Zhou Fangzuan disappeared. Her eyes shone brightly and she laughed proudly. This kid was so arrogant before. Now there isn't even a corpse left. I really don't understand why the King of Gold values such a trash. Looking up, there was nothing behind Zhou Fangzuan, only the scorched ground. Isn't it too simple? Kusanagi Izumo frowned. In his impression, Dustless was unfathomable. His strength was overwhelming. Now he was killed by Zhou Fangzuan in one move. This situation was too unusual. Could even be said to be strange. Look. Anna suddenly pointed to the sky. Looking at the golden light in the sky, it was like countless fireflies dancing in the sky. For a moment she said absent-mindedly, "So beautiful." At the same time, everyone was aware of the changes in the sky. These strange golden lights were really intriguing. Even in the face of Zhou Fangzuan's flame, they were safe and sound. King? I can barely see it. A ripple suddenly splashed in the void. Dustless's ethereal voice came again. Yadamiwa, who was laughing, was stunned. She immediately scolded angrily, "Coward, why are you hiding? Don't you dare to fight with Mr. Fangzuan? I've always been above you." Dustless's indifferent voice came again. Then, the golden lights all over the sky gathered together and condensed into a human body. Immediately, Dustless stepped out of it safe and sound. What a powerful ability. The faces of the members of Yadawulo changed drastically. He was clearly hit by Zhou Fangzuan, but he was unharmed. How hard was his body? Your Akashi clan seems to be very good at playing with fire. What a coincidence. In fact, I'm also very good at playing with fire. Dustless suddenly laughed. Then, under everyone's gaze, he quickly formed a few hand seals. Fire release, grand fire annihilation. The earth-shattering fire spat out from Wu Qian's mouth. The area it covered was really amazing. It had a diameter of 10 to 20 meters. It was like a group of flames rushing over, like an endless sea of fire. What a joke. Zhou Fangzuan and the others gasped when they saw this incredible sea of fire. Such a big movement in the blink of an eye. This was too dreamy. Let's resist it together. Kusanagi Izumo and Yadamiwa looked at each other and immediately appeared in front of Zhou Fangzuan. In an instant, all the pores on their bodies opened and a large number of flames rushed out. The three of them were like firemen wrapped in flames. You overestimate yourselves. Dustless's expression was indifferent. No matter how the three of them joined forces, everything was fragile under the grand fire annihilation. No matter how many ants could stop the tiger's footsteps. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2303. Boom, boom, boom. A large amount of high-density flames erupted from their bodies. 3 pairs of fists suddenly punched out. 6 thick fire dragons soared into the sky and blasted into the sea of fire. Bang, bang, bang. 2 ferocious flames suddenly collided with each other. Countless sparks flew in all directions. The ground was scorched black. Even the invisible sky was burned red. The originally blue world turned red in an instant. This guy is so strong. Zhou Fangzuan and the other 2 looked at each other. Although they were in such a hot environment, their hearts were still cold. There was even a bone-piercing chill flowing down their backs. The churning sea of fire moved forward at full speed. Even though they tried their best to resist, they were still pushed back by a powerful force. The ground they stepped on drew 3 lines. The 3 of them were constantly pushed back. Looks like you guys are struggling. Dustless laughed unscrupulously. When he was about to open his mouth to mock them, he suddenly found a pair of cold eyes looking at him. He turned his head and couldn't help but be startled. Anna, quickly leave here. You are not that guy's opponent. Zhou Fangzuan's tone had a rare hint of reprimand. The person who was secretly looking at Dustless was the little princess of Veda Wulua, Sinming Anna. Little girl, what can I do for you? Dustless touched his chin and stared at this cute lowly girl. He was really embarrassed to make a move. After all, he wasn't an evil person. Sinming Anna in front of him was just an 11 or 12-year-old girl. I am from the same clan as you. I will definitely help them. Sinming Anna looked at Dustless very seriously. It seemed that she wanted to see where the flaws were. Your courage is praiseworthy. However, this is a game played by adults. Children, back off. Glancing at Sinming Anna, Dustless said very impolitely. However, the little girl was unexpectedly stubborn. She obviously ignored Dustless's words. She stood still and continued to look at Dustless. Fighting doesn't seem to be your strong suit. Dustless raised his eyebrows slightly. After carefully looking at Sinming Anna for a moment, he slowly said, children should sleep obediently. The moment his voice fell, Dustless's eyes became scarlet 3-tomo Sharingan. Bastard, what do you want to do? Seeing Wu Qin staring at Sinming Anna expressionlessly, the 3 of them became nervous, especially Zhou Fangzuan. He looked at Wu Qin with a ferocious expression. If it wasn't for the endless sea of fire in front of him that couldn't be crossed, he would have already flown over to beat Wu Qin up. Nothing, I just let this little girl sleep for a while. Wu Qin answered casually. Then he blinked his eyes and a majestic eye power invaded Sinming Anna's mind through eye contact. Puff. Sin Anna's bright eyes instantly dimmed, as if her soul had been sucked away. Soon after, under the gazes of several people, she collapsed to the ground, unable to withstand a single blow. Bastard. Seeing this, several people suddenly became very nervous and stared at Dustless fiercely. You can't even protect yourselves and you still have the mood to worry about others? Dustless asked softly, worthy of being a member of the same organization, you really have deep feelings. But, who asked you to trouble me? You are destined to pay the price. Dustless suddenly lifted his right foot, the light shined, making people unable to open their eyes. Lightspeed kick. The straight light rushed out, like an unstoppable torrent, straight into the sea of fire. Boom boom boom. The light burst open, the sea of fire was instantly kicked out, setting off a violent impact. Zhou Fangzuan and others were naturally affected. Their internal organs trembled fiercely, after fiercely vomiting blood, their body flew out upside down. Bang. Even if they were blown away and their heads were bleeding, they still stood up tenaciously. Your strength is average, but you are extremely durable. Dustless nodded and said, and immediately with a swoosh, his figure disappeared again. Damn guy, if you have the guts, then fight with us face to face. What's the point of hiding? No matter how powerful you are, I despise you and look down on trash like you. Hadamiko was furious. Dustless's speed was too fast, too unscientific, and human eyes could not see it at all. Therefore she could only try to provoke Dustless. It would be best if Dustless was willing to take the initiative to come out. Blindly speaking arrogant words will only make you look more fragile. I'm very curious. You clearly know the difference in strength, but you still challenge me without fear of death. Your inexplicable confidence is really admirable. I don't know if it is appropriate to praise you for your courage or to say that you are ignorant. Dustless's low voice sounded again. Zhou Fangzuan, Kusanagi Izumo, and Hadamiko looked at each other and shook their heads. Just like before, they could not find any trace of him. You brat, you are the most arrogant. You will be eliminated first. Dustless suddenly appeared behind Hatamiko and grabbed his head with his big hand. I found you. At this moment, Hatamiko suddenly turned around and the flames on her body surged. She compressed it into a flaming iron rod and smashed it at Dustless. Bang! The iron rod hit Dustless's head, and a ka-ka-ka sound was suddenly heard as if the skull was broken. Gulp. However, Hatamiko was not happy because the thing that was broken was her iron rod. On the other hand, Dustless was intact and looked at her coldly. Get lost. Dustless lifted his foot and kicked Hatamiko's right face without hesitation. Bang! This kick was merciless. The right side of Hatamiko's face was badly mutilated, and even a few of her teeth were broken. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2304. Get lost. Dustless lifted his leg and kicked Hatamiko's right face without hesitation. Bang! This kick was merciless. The right side of Hatamiko's face was badly mutilated, and even a few of her teeth were broken. Oh no, we've really kicked an iron plate this time. Maybe we should take the advice of Blue Shirt. We shouldn't recklessly find trouble with this guy, or maybe join forces with them. Kusanagi Izumo's face changed drastically. Fear and anxiety appeared on his handsome face. Dustless's strength made him feel despair. Even Zhou Fangzuan was suppressed. Could even be said that Zhou Fangzuan was crushed. It's useless to regret. There's only one path in front of us. Either we step over this guy's body or he steps over our heads. Zhou Fangzuan looked straight at Dustless. His fighting spirit was boiling and there was madness in his red eyes. I'm used to being invincible. It's interesting to suddenly have an opponent that I can't surpass. Zhou Fangzuan, who was always cold, suddenly sighed with emotion. Is that so? Then I'll shatter your invincible legend. Will you be happy if I understand it this way? Dustless squinted his eyes, and there was a frightening light flickering in his eyes. That will have to wait until you defeat me. Zhou Fangzuan suddenly roared, and a large amount of flames soared out of his body. Boom, boom, boom. These ferocious flames wrapped around Zhou Fangzuan's body, and they were also impactful. Kusanagi Izumo, who was the closest to him, was suddenly sent flying. Are you going to give it your all? Fangzuan. Kusanagi Izumo stood up awkwardly and stared at Zhou Fangzuan solemnly. Obviously he was also forced into a dead end. Otherwise he wouldn't have gone all out against Dustless. Swoosh, swoosh. An inexplicable tremor came from the void, and the sky suddenly darkened. Looking up, a huge red sword was floating in the sky, hovering above Zhou Fangzuan. Is he trying to drag me to hell? What an ambition. Looking up at the sky, Dustless's pupils shrank. He looked at the broken sword. There were cracks everywhere and dust was constantly falling off. It was as if the sword could collapse at any time. The sword of Damocles? Dustless muttered in a low voice. He suddenly thought of something and raised his head to look at Zhou Fangzuan. He could not help but look at him in a new light. You can't be thinking of threatening me, right? As soon as he finished speaking, Dustless stared at Zhou Fangzuan. Indeed, he was no different from the rumors. The King of Red, Zhou Fangzuan, was not afraid of death at all. You don't have to look at me. You guessed right. Zhou Fangzuan responded faintly and said seriously, the power of the sword of Damocles falling down, can you block it? Honored one. When he said this, the first person whose expression changed was not Dustless, but Kusanagi Chuyun. The meaning of this was very simple. It meant that they would perish together. Oh, what a crazy man. Dustless opened his mouth in panic. He looked scared, but there was a casual smile on his face. Although the idea is good, I'm sorry you won't have the chance. Dustless said with a chuckle. His eyes narrowed slightly, and the scarlet eternal Mangekyo Sharingan was exposed. The surging eye power spread out unstoppably. This kind of eye again. Seeing the evil eye, Zhou Fangzuan's expression changed slightly. It was this kind of eye that had swept over Anna, and she had fainted inexplicably. Zhou Fangzuan, you also sleep for a while, Tsukuyami? As soon as his voice fell, Dustless activated his eye power, and a majestic mental force invaded Zhou Fangzuan's mind. Plop. After a while, like Anna, Zhou Fangzuan also fell to the ground. It was so inexplicable, as if he was an actor used to act. It was too fake. Honored one. Kusanagi Chuyun was shocked and hurriedly came up to grab Zhou Fangzuan. After discovering that he still had a heartbeat and breathing, his hanging heart relaxed. At the same time, the sword of Damocles floating in the sky also disappeared, and everything seemed to have returned to normal. What did you do to Honored One? Kusanagi Chuyun gloomily locked onto Dustless, but the latter just put his hands in his pockets and didn't even look at Zhou Fangzuan, as if he was an insignificant person. Take your people and get lost. The difference is too great. The next time you appear in my sight, you will bear the consequences. Dustless obviously had no intention of answering. He turned around and left without saying a word from beginning to end. Kusanagi Juyun was infuriated when he saw Wu Chen looking down on Fei Wuluo. He shouted, "You're just someone who used underhanded means to defeat an exalted. If you have the guts, then fight me fair and square." Insidious means? Maybe, but didn't anyone tell you that insidious means are also a part of strength? Dustless's voice echoed in his ears, neither happy nor angry, as if defeating the so-called king was just a small matter, not worth celebrating. This time I really lost completely. Looking up at the sky, Kusanagi Chuyun was hesitant and sad. He was obviously not the king but a pure outsider. Why was the powerful king unable to withstand it? Could it be like what the ancestral religion division said, that the Golden King was also afraid of him? Suddenly turning his head and looking at Dustless's back, Kusanagi Chuyun suddenly felt that he was very far away. It seemed like he was just an inch away, but if he really chased after him, it would be a long distance that couldn't be covered even in a few centuries. Seeing Dustless leaving, Kitty also followed. Unlike Kusanagi Chuyun, who was naughty by nature, she made a face and trotted after him. In the quiet scene, only Kusanagi Chuyun and his 3 unconscious companions were left. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2305. Do I have to find an explanation? Seeing the crowd glaring at him, Wu Chen raised his eyebrows slightly. This burning gaze was like a blade, piercing his skin to the point where he felt a little stinging pain. Is there a reason? Dustless muttered to himself and pointed at the gray puppy at Rem's feet. He's so ugly and stupid. Can I not like him? Dustless was helpless when he came up with such a weird reason because he really did not have a suitable excuse. Even if he said that this puppy was extremely dangerous and had something to do with the witch sect, no one would believe him. You. Rem was instantly enraged when he heard that. He glared at Dustless angrily. It was obvious that he was deliberately looking for trouble. Awu? Awu? At that moment, the gray puppy at Rem's feet roared. It bared its teeth as if to say, "You're uglier than me. This is interesting. A mere animal dares to challenge me." Dustless's eyes turned cold as he strode over with his head held high. "Stop, Remington." However, before he could take 2 steps, Rem stood in front of Dustless like a city wall. The group of children also surrounded him, their faces filled with anger and hostility. "Seriously? I surrender, okay?" Dustless shook his head and said bluntly, "If I say that this stupid dog has something to do with the witch sect, would you believe me?" "No," Rem answered simply. Rem's answer was very straightforward. He looked at the gray puppy with a gentle gaze and picked it up in an extremely friendly manner. Looking at the wound on its leg and the clear footprints, his pretty face immediately turned ugly with dissatisfaction. He rubbed the puppy with great heartache. The huge footprints were naturally left by Dustless. "Little and I, don't you think it's strange?" Dustless looked at Rem and said confidently, "That kick of mine wasn't weak. It's enough to kick a normal human to death. However, this dog is completely fine. It's obvious that this dog isn't anything special. Go buy all the ingredients by yourself, I'll wait for you here," Rem said expressionlessly, clearly not interested in the topic of Dustless or even annoyed. "Forget it. Since you don't like me, don't regret it." Dustless simply turned around and left, indicating that he had tried his best. He had originally wanted to kill this beast, but he was afraid that Rem would hate him for the rest of his life. After thinking about it carefully, he decided against it. After hundreds of years of ups and downs, Dustless had already trained an optimistic attitude. Even though he was being misunderstood, he still had a smile on his face. "That's good too. I'll let you little bastard be proud for a while. When the time comes, I'll wipe out all of you stupid dogs." Dustless glanced at Greyhound, whose eyes were shining, and immediately left silently. According to Rem's instructions, Dustless went to buy the necessary ingredients. As for what Rem was doing at this moment, Dustless didn't need to look to guess. She was most likely treating that stupid dog. He also saw the wound on Greyhound's leg before. Although it was bloody and looked very miserable, it didn't hurt the muscles and bones at all. To put it bluntly, it was just a simple skin wound. Moreover, according to Dustless's understanding, that dog's IQ is very high. Usually when hunting for prey, it rarely appears. It manipulates a group of little brothers to besiege the enemy. The wound on its leg was probably caused by it in order to win Rem's sympathy. The world is degenerating day by day. A beast is smarter than a human. It's a pity that the dog didn't become an actor. Dustless secretly sighed. About 10 minutes later, he came out of the fruit shop and temporarily put all the ingredients he bought into the Kamui space. Uchiha Obito's Kamui space has been used by Dustless as a place to store groceries. It's time to leave. I hope Rem is okay. Dustless returned according to the original route, looking for Rem, who was helping Greyhound. He was always a little nervous. He wasn't worried about Rem's strength, but she was too kind and sympathetic. It's very likely that she was bitten by that big stupid dog when she was treating Greyhound. Kid, where is Rem? Walking into the village, Wuxia grabbed a little ghost and asked. He purposely put on a ferocious look. In the woods, I don't know why, but a group of magical beasts suddenly appeared in the woods. We quickly went to call for reinforcements. They are besieging Sister Remington, the kid who was frightened quickly replied. Sure enough, what I was worried about still happened, but how long have I been gone? That beast can't help but feel hungry so soon. Wuxia frowned and hurriedly turned into a streak of resplendent golden light and swept over in the direction that Imp pointed at. I'm afraid that the smart Greyhound also noticed the danger of Dustless, so it wanted to end the battle quickly and get rid of Rem as soon as possible. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. In the dense woods, Dustless was alone. He couldn't help but frown when he smelled the scent of blood in the woods. He looked down and saw a large number of corpses of magical beasts. They were all stained with blood, and some of the magical beasts weren't completely dead yet. They were still breathing weakly. They were probably injured not long ago. At the front, Rem was fighting alone. She was surrounded by ferocious magical beasts that looked the same. They were all dog-type magical beasts. Beside Rem there were a few unconscious children. They were also dripping with blood and were on the verge of death. Rem's eyes were filled with hatred and anger. She stared at Greyhound, who was protected by a large number of magical beasts. Her strong murderous intent couldn't be concealed. Woof woof woof, Greyhound barked proudly when Rem stared at it. The corners of its mouth curled up as if it was mocking Remington. Damn it. Rem stomped her feet. It was too late for regrets. If she could have trusted Dustless, she wouldn't have fallen into such a difficult situation. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2306. Adolf K. Weitzman looked at Dustless for help. At that time, Dustless defeated the King of Colorless, so he knew the inside story. As long as he was willing to explain, Adolf K. Weitzman would naturally not have to worry, and Nightblade God Go Lang would not pursue him. Is what he said true? Nightblade God Go Lang also looked at Dustless in confusion, hoping for a real answer. Him? Pointing at Adolf K. Weitzman, Dustless's eyes suddenly had a hint of playfulness and playfulness. Adolf K. Weitzman, who saw this, suddenly felt his heart skip a beat, as if a disaster was about to befall him. I hope you'll be careful with your words. Seeing Dustless's gloating expression, Adolf K. Weitzman's body inexplicably tensed up. Look at how useless you are. Are you really the King of Origins? I haven't even said anything yet and you're already so scared. I'm afraid no one would believe that you're the oldest king. Dustless shook his head in disdain. Although Adolf K. Weitzman was the first king, his strength was only average. Phew. Hearing Dustless's words, Adolf K. Weitzman sighed in relief and looked at Nightblade God Go Lang with a smile. This proves that I'm innocent, right? I'll believe you this time. Although Nightblade God Go Lang was full of doubts, he still withdrew his sword. He felt that Dustless would not lie to him, and there was no need and reason for him to do so. To think that I wanted to watch a good show, what a disappointment. Cat, let's go back. After giving the two a bored look, Dustless and Cat walked away. Only Nightblade God Go Lang and Adolf K. Weitzman were left. In the original work, because Cat had modified Adolf K. Weitzman's memory, he did not know that he was the King of Silver. But now that Cat was taken away by Dustless, his memory was still intact, so some things were as clear as a mirror, and he knew that he was the King of Silver. In the healthcare teacher's office. Another boring day. Dustless sat lazily on the sofa in a daze. His empty eyes looked at the blue sky in boredom. As for the cat, it was eating with relish and sometimes showed happiness from the bottom of its heart. To her, having food was perhaps the greatest satisfaction in her life, and her life was unusually fulfilling. "It's not boring, it's very comfortable," the cat said contentedly, his mouth full of grease. "Don't compare me to a foodie like you." Dustless rolled his eyes in annoyance and said in an extremely annoying tone, "Sigh, it's lonely at the top. It's all because I'm too strong and I don't even have an opponent. How lonely it is to be invincible, cough cough cough." Hearing these words, Xiao Mao's face turned red. She turned her head and looked at Dustless speechlessly. How shameless could this guy be? Dong dong dong. At this moment the sound of knocking on the door suddenly came. Dustless closed his eyes and sighed, "What bad luck, of all things I had to be a healthcare teacher. Come in." Dustless calmed down and became serious again. Creak. The closed door was gently pushed open. Then a pretty face suddenly poked her head in, looking left and right, giving the impression of a shifty-eyed person. "Student, if you want to steal something, you've come to the wrong place." Snow-stained chrysanthemum? Dustless's words came to an abrupt stop. When this face appeared in front of him, he suddenly called out the girl's name. "Are you sick? You don't look like it, you look good." Staring at the girl again and again, Dustless seriously analyzed. Although he was not a healthcare doctor, he had lived for nearly 1,000 years and had already trained a pair of discerning eyes. He could tell if she was sick or not with just a few glances. That eye, being asked by Dustless like this, Snow-stained chrysanthemum's pretty face was bright red, and was unusually shy. "If you have something to say, just say it. I'll try my best to deal with it, student Snow-stained." Dustless changed the topic. Looking at the bright red face of Snow-stained chrysanthemum, he could not help but feel embarrassed. If he did not know, he would think that he was beastly and took liberties with her. Some things are really embarrassing. I'll only tell you, teacher. Don't tell anyone else, okay?" Snow-stained chrysanthemum's pretty face was even redder. Even the cat, who was eating heartily, stopped. She put down the snacks in her hand and stared at Dustless angrily. She looked like she was saying, "You dare to eat behind my back. This is really an unexpected disaster." Seeing this, Dustless did not know whether to laugh or cry. He waved his hand and walked to Snow-stained chrysanthemum's side and said, "Student Snow-stained chrysanthemum, if you have something to say, just say it. Don't beat around the bush. If you continue like this, my family's vinegar jar, that savage cat, will be furious." Okay, the thing is," looking at Dustless who was close at hand, Snow-stained chrysanthemum's face suddenly changed. Like an evil spirit, her left arm suddenly stabbed toward Dustless's abdomen. A sharp bayonet was clearly visible. Poochie, poochie, poochie. In a split second, Snow-stained chrysanthemum had stabbed Dustless more than a dozen times. Moreover, each of the stabs was fatal, without the slightest mercy. "Ah, jia. Now you're completely dead, right?" Snow-stained chrysanthemum suddenly laughed ferociously. That pretty face turned into the creepy smile of the Grim Reaper. What did you do to Dustless?" The cat was also stunned. She did not expect that the shy Snow-stained chrysanthemum would suddenly be possessed by a demon and become cruel and ruthless. "Haha, idiot, blame this guy for being too lecherous. He can't move when he sees a beauty." Snow-stained chrysanthemum laughed insolently, as if Dustless was already dead. Listening to this voice, "You should be that idiot colorless king, right?" A cold laugh suddenly sounded, making Snow-stained chrysanthemum's smile suddenly freeze. Looking down, his mouth suddenly opened wide. "P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates." Chapter 2307. She raised her head and saw Dustless's cold expression. His body was stabbed more than a dozen times, but he didn't even make a sound. His deep eyes were filled with wisdom and calmness. Of course, there was also a suffocating chill. "Why aren't you hurt at all?" Shuaranjuli's expression was extremely ugly. Her face was green and white and it was extremely colorful. If I died after a few stabs, then I might have died a few hundred years ago. Dustless only responded indifferently. Immediately after, he looked at Shuaranjuli. No, it would be more appropriate to call him King Colorless, who was controlling Shuaranjuli's consciousness. Stupid waste, I thought you would be more sensible. Who would have thought that you would still recklessly look for trouble? Wu Chen's face condensed a dense murderous intent. That red light in his eyes scared the cat to retreat again and again. What a terrifying gaze. Not to mention the cat, even King Colorless was shocked. Under that gaze, he felt that his life was in Dustless's hands and could be killed at any time. You're not trying to scare me? Suddenly thinking of something, King Colorless controlled Shuaranjuli and grinned. Although I might be a bug to you and you only need to step on me? No, even sneeze to kill me. Don't forget that the original owner of this body is that little girl called Shuaranjuli. If you kill me like this, she will definitely die. You are quite self-aware. Dustless retracted his cold gaze, but his expression was still cold. It was undeniable that what King Colorless said was the truth. As long as he continued to hide in Shuaranjuli's body, Dustless would be helpless. Unless he killed Shuaranjuli as well, then he would be able to kill King Colorless. Kiki, King Colorless laughed sinisterly and said proudly, since you're willing to have tender feelings for the fairer sex, then I'll take my leave. I'll visit you again in the future. As soon as he finished speaking, the snow-stained chrysanthemum under the control of the Colorless King slowly left. He was extremely pleased with himself, as if he had just won a battle. Are we just going to let him go like this? Cat looked at Shuaranjuli slowly disappearing back. He was so angry that his teeth itched. He was not reconciled. This guy was really asking for a beating. Why are you so anxious? Compared to the angry cat, Dustless's expression was calm. There was no change at all. He said slowly, do you know why he attacked me? Why? The cat looked confused and said, isn't it because you two have a grudge? You humiliated him once before, so this guy hates you to death. This is only one of the reasons. There's a deeper reason. Dustless said slowly, this guy is quite ambitious. The bigger reason is that the Colorless King has taken a fancy to my body and wants to take me for himself. That's why he came back for me. It's only a matter of time before I kill him. Take you for myself? Hearing this, the cat's pretty face was indescribably strange. You damned girl, what nonsense are you thinking? Seeing the cat's strange look, Dustless's mouth twitched. He knew that she had misunderstood and explained, you saw Shuaranjuli, right? He also wants to use this method to take over my body and obtain my ability. So that's how it is. Hearing this, the cat nodded in realization. Immediately, her body tensed up. Doesn't that mean that he can take over other people's bodies as he wishes? Me too? That's right, but it doesn't mean that he can devour that person's will. Dustless suddenly thought of Zhou Fangzuan and comforted, you don't have to worry. When your will is strong, the Colorless King won't be able to take over your consciousness. For example, Zhou Fangzuan and Zhong Xiang Right's division are powerful. Then I'm done for? Being so close to you, I'm definitely that guy's first choice. The cat complained rather miserably. You, Dustless smiled, rubbed the girl's head and said, didn't I say before? The people around me are special. As long as that guy dares to come out of Shuaranjuli's body, he's dead. Time passed unknowingly. Stars dotted the sky. In the blink of an eye, it was already late at night. The base of Veda Wullo. As a violent organization, Veda Wullo's base was unusually quiet. The public security was also ridiculously good. No one dared to cause trouble here. But today was different. On the streets, there were wailing crowds everywhere. These people were not invaders. They were all members of Veda Wullo. To be able to beat up Veda Wullo's people in their territory, this guy obviously had a big background. In the bar of Kusanagi Izumo, the atmosphere was extremely oppressive. It could go berserk at any time. Zhou Fangzuan and the others also regained consciousness. Of course, it was not that they could withstand the beating. It was just that Dustless didn't go all out, so they woke up after a few hours. What do you mean by this? Are you ignoring this old man's orders? Zhou Fangzuan. A tall old man roared. Even though his hair was white and he looked weak, his voice was full of energy. He even dared to call out Zhou Fangzuan's name. Even a madman like Hadamiko was silent. She looked at the old man cautiously. Even if she was unhappy, she didn't dare to refute. This old man wasn't anyone else. He was the strongest Golden King. He dared to call out Zhou Fangzuan's name directly. He also had the strength and was several times older than Zhou Fangzuan. Old man, I'm not your ally. Why should I obey your orders? Pay attention to your attitude. Zhou Fengzuan said coldly and domineeringly. Being defeated by Dustless was enough for him to be annoyed. Now that the Golden King was looking for trouble, did he really think that he was made of mud? Who could step on him whenever they wanted? P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2308. The scene was extremely heated. Both sides were filled with a strong smell of gunpowder. They looked at each other unkindly and ferociously. The situation could explode at any time. Humph, you didn't listen to my orders and got chased away by that guy. You've disgraced the king. The Golden King didn't intend to fight for the time being. Instead, he started to verbally attack Zhou Fengzuan. This is also my business. It has nothing to do with you. Zhou Fengzuan's face was cold and indifferent. He looked at the Golden King as if he was deliberately angering him. What's more, what right do you have to talk about me? A person like you who retreats without a fight is a disgrace to the king. Hearing this, the Golden King's old face turned red with anger. He looked at Zhou Fengzuan angrily and roared hoarsely, "Boy, you're the first person who dares to talk to me like this after so many years." Zhou Fengzuan didn't move. He wasn't afraid of the Golden King. Although this old guy was known as the strongest king, he wouldn't have an easy time if they really fought. I'll catch you today and apologize to that guy. In the end, the Golden King's majestic aura spread out. Everyone felt their bodies shaking. They were so weak that their bones cracked. It was as if this old guy could destroy everyone present in an instant with just a thought. So strong. The members of Fu Wulua were all shocked. This powerful and overbearing aura was indeed stronger than Zhou Fengzuan's, and it wasn't just a little bit stronger. Then bring it on. Zhou Fengzuan also unleashed his aura. Fierce flames erupted and dazzling crimson light erupted unscrupulously. It was as if even the sky was about to burn. Bang! Because the aura of the two men was too terrifying, the moment the collision occurred, everyone except Zhou Fengzuan and the Golden King were blown away by the merciless airwaves. The bar of straw pheasant out was razed to the ground in an instant. This ignorant brat, when will he grow up? The Golden King's furious face had a hint of helplessness. He couldn't help but lower his head and sigh. Couldn't Zhou Fengzuan see that Dustless's strength wasn't something he could handle? Yet he still wanted to provoke the other party. Wasn't he courting death? The Golden King was really afraid that Dustless would get angry and fight with Zhou Fengzuan. If that happened, the city would definitely not be able to withstand the fight between the two and would become a heartless burial object. Therefore, in order to appease Dustless's anger, the Golden King only wanted to capture Zhou Fengzuan alive and let Dustless deal with him. Sometimes a temporary retreat is not the so-called fear. Why don't you understand this principle? Stupid and ignorant red-haired brat. Huang Jinwu was extremely angry and scolded Zhou Fengzuan. There is no such thing as regressing in my dictionary. Venerable Zhou Fengzuan was still indifferent as he looked at the Golden King. Even if his aura was not as strong as this old man, he would not be afraid, let alone run away without a fight. All right, let's see how hard your bones are. The Golden King stopped talking nonsense. The void suddenly became extremely dazzling. A glittering golden sword floated in the sky. It was bejeweled and inviolable, as if it was carved by the heavens. This is the Golden King's sword of Damocles. Seeing the golden sword in the void, illuminating the sky with unparalleled power, many people's faces changed greatly. The sword of Damocles also reflected the king's own condition. Although the Golden King was now white-haired and had one foot in the coffin, and his age had reached an astonishing 95 years old, it was not difficult to see from the state of the sword of Damocles that this old man was still as powerful as ever. Looking at venerable Zhou Fengzuan, his sword of Damocles seemed to be dim like a useless sword. The huge sword body was full of broken marks. From time to time, ruins would fall, as if it could collapse and dissipate at any time. Idiot, you still want to fight with me in this state? The Golden King's face was gloomy. He asked in a hoarse voice, Venerable Zhou Fengzuan, don't you know your current physical condition? Stupid thing. Quickly resign from the position of king. I refuse. Venerable Zhou Fengzuan was unwilling to say another word, as if each word was worth 1,000 gold. You forced me to do this. The Golden King's murderous intent was awe-inspiring. His aura was getting more and more violent. Everyone held their breaths and broke out in cold sweat. Just as the two sides were about to engage in a fierce battle, a cold voice suddenly sounded. "Is it really appropriate for you to treat me as heir so unscrupulously?" This indifferent tone was like a bolt from the blue. Although the voice was very soft, it attracted everyone's attention. The two kings are about to fight. Who is so arrogant to disturb the situation at this time? Many people raised their heads and looked at the source of the voice. Who is so reckless? How dare he interrupt the duel between two kings? He doesn't know how death is written. It's this guy. He's here? Is he here to seek revenge? Seeing the newcomer, the members of Fei Wulua were all grief-stricken. The young man in front of them had delicate features. His black eyes were as deep as black holes that wanted to devour people's minds. The moment the young man appeared, everyone's face changed dramatically. Even the Golden King and the Red King, Venerable Zhou Fangzuan, withdrew their aura. Although their expressions didn't change as dramatically as the others, they still looked at the young man closely. "Really, I'm not a beauty coming out of the bath. Why are you looking at me so hungrily?" Dustless shook his head helplessly and said unscrupulously, "Could it be that you are all bent? Are you all gay?" This is really scary. Even the king is a pervert. This country will be finished sooner or later. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2309. The moment the young man appeared, everyone's expression changed drastically. Even the Golden King, the Red King, and Zhou Fangzuan retracted their auras. Although their expressions did not change as dramatically as the others, they still looked at the young man closely. "Really, I'm not a beautiful woman coming out of the bath. Why are you looking at me so hungrily?" Dustless shook his head helplessly, then said unscrupulously, "Could it be that you are all gay? This is really scary. Even the king is a pervert. This country will be finished sooner or later. Is this guy crazy?" After Dustless finished his ridicule, the scene was dumbfounded. Everyone was shocked and took a few steps back. This guy was crazy. He said that the king was gay. Wasn't this playing with fire? No, wasn't this playing with their lives? After all, they were kings high and mighty. When had anyone dared to slander a king like this? It was simply a naked provocation. Just as many people thought that the situation would escalate and that the Red King and the Golden King would turn around, Dustless began to provoke the two again. "Let's stop the children's fight here." Wu Qin scrutinized the two of them with the intention of stopping them. His tone gave people the feeling that he was very tough and couldn't be disobeyed. It was as if he was an elder brother ordering his younger brother. This caused many people to look at each other in dismay. They exclaimed in their hearts that this guy was too arrogant. This guy must be a complete lunatic. The price to pay for provoking two kings is definitely terrible. Some of the minions who did not know the truth gasped and could not help but be stunned. One king was already terrifying, let alone two. And the most powerful one, the Golden King? However, from the beginning to the end, the Golden King and the Red King were silent. They did not say a word, as if what was happening in front of them had nothing to do with them. "Your Excellency is right. I'm old and my body is no longer suitable for fighting. These old bones can't stand any more torment. Since your Excellency has spoken, I can't not give you face. This matter ends here." To everyone's surprise, the Golden King was silent for a while and agreed with Dustless. He did not refute Dustless at all. Instead, he laughed and agreed. "That's strange. Previously, the King of Gold was so domineering. He wanted to capture the King of Red, Zhou Fangzuan, and hand him over to someone else. Why has his attitude softened now?" Some people were dumbfounded and looked at the Golden King in confusion. Hadamiko and the others looked at each other and heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at the stunned crowd, they couldn't help but smile bitterly. The reason why the Golden King's attitude softened was because Dustless was right in front of him. "I didn't expect that the person who resolved the crisis this time would be this guy." Hadamito's eyes were gloomy and sullen. Dustless was their enemy. One had to understand that he had been beaten up by Dustless and had lost all face. Now that an enemy had resolved the crisis, his heart was filled with indescribable complex emotions. "What do you mean by that?" Zhou Fangzuan looked at Dustless coldly. He had always used the tone of a man of few words and was unwilling to say more nonsense. You better understand your attitude. You're just a loser. Don't talk to me in such a questioning tone. Dustless also retorted sarcastically. This Zhou Fangzuan seemed to be quite forgetful and did not seem to be a loser at all. The king was defeated? Are you kidding me? If I remember correctly, there is no such guy among the 7 kings. Many people were stunned and looked at Dustless in horror. Why was this guy so terrifying? He could even defeat the legendary invincible king. Moreover, Zhou Fangzuan was silent and just looked at Dustless motionlessly. Obviously, this was the truth and not a groundless rumor. If he's not the king, how can he defeat the king? Everyone was stunned. Since the birth of the king, it symbolized invincibility. Just like the government of this country, although it was controlled by the prime minister, the person behind the scenes was still the Golden King. Tell your people to leave. I have something to tell you. Dustless glanced at Zhou Fangzuan indifferently. His tone was indifferent and emotionless. Bastard, watch your attitude. This is our boss, not your tone. Don't talk to our boss in such a commanding tone. Some of the members who were unhappy with Dustless cursed and rolled up their sleeves to beat him up. However, this group of people was not arrogant for long before they were knocked unconscious by Hadamito. Shut up. There are some people that you can't afford to offend. Do you understand? Get lost. Hadamito roared angrily. Were these people idiots? Can't you see? Not to mention Zhou Fangzuan, even the Golden King doesn't dare to challenge Dustless. This group of minions is the first to seek death. They are playing with fire. If we don't knock them out now and wait for Dustless to make a move, maybe it won't be as simple as just fainting. Losing an arm or a leg would be a small problem. Gangsters will always be gangsters. It's really hard to understand. Fortunately, my strength is strong enough. Otherwise, I would have been kicked out before I could even open my mouth. No, kicking me out is considered good. Maybe I wouldn't even have the chance to open my mouth and would have been crippled. Dustless said to himself. Cough, cough, cough. Your Excellency must be joking. You are our guest. No matter when, you will always be treated like this. Hadamito said with a fake smile. Dustless was right. They only looked at the size of the fist. As for reasoning, what the hell was that? Everyone leave. Do what you need to do. This matter ends here. Zhou Fangzuan took a deep look at Dustless and finally nodded in agreement unexpectedly. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 23:10. In fact, although Zhou Fangzuan's attitude was tough, he didn't want to offend Dustless. Even if he wasn't afraid of death, he had to think of others, such as Kusanagi Izumo. Therefore he agreed to Dustless's conditions. Boss, what are you shouting about? Is everyone's ears stuffed with hair? Get out of here or I'll drive you away personally. She even waved her bat, scaring a lot of people to run away at the mere sight of her. In the Vega Dance Luo organization, Hadamiko was famous for being a prick. Drive them all away. The moment she turned to look at Dustless, Hadamiko's arrogant expression disappeared. She nodded and bowed obediently. That shameless B** starred. The members of Vega Dance Luo who were driven away peeked at Hadamiko. Looking at her cowardly appearance, many of them stomped their feet in anger. She was so arrogant when she bullied them. Why did she become a coward when facing a stronger person? Disgusting. Especially that smirk, it made many people want to vomit. She was too shameless. Just say what you want. Zhou Fangzuan still looked arrogant, with an expression that said, "Don't waste my time." What an arrogant guy. Dustless wasn't angry. He suddenly said, "I can tell you some things about the colorless king." Are you sure? Hearing this, the members of Vega Dance Luo were stunned and looked at Dustless with joy. If we know about the colorless king, we can take revenge for Mr. Tatara. Among the members of Vega Dance Luo, Hadamiko was the most excited. After losing to Dustless, she thought that she would never get any information about the colorless king from Dustless. Who would have thought that happiness would come so quickly, and she would come knocking on his door? It seems that the next part is your private matter. This old man can't stand it anymore. Goodbye. Golden King relaxed when he heard this. He was really afraid that Dustless would beat up Zhou Fangzuan. If that happened, the city would be buried with him. Go ahead. Dustless nodded. He didn't speak respectfully and was extremely casual. Zhou Fangzuan, on the other hand, did not even look at the Golden King. His gaze locked on Dustless did not move. Although he looked very calm, the observant Dustless still noticed that the guy's breathing rate had obviously changed. It was just that he had concealed it very cleverly. That colorless king. Dustless thought of that abominable bug and slowly said, "First of all, the video you saw was Izana Society killing Toshiro. In reality, that's not the case. At that time, Izana Society's body was taken over by someone else." "Is it outside of colorless?" Kusanagi Izumo's eyes shone with a cold light. He gritted his teeth and said, "That bastard has guts. He dares to kill our people." "Why are you telling me this?" Zhou Fangzuan, on the other hand, was full of doubts. He stared at the naughty smile on Dustless's face and felt like he was being used as a tool. "That bastard is too much of an eyesore. That's all." Dustless said casually, "Of course there is another reason. That guy will come for you sooner or later, he will come for the guy from the Ancestral Right Division." "Come for us? I don't think he will be so stupid as to walk into a trap." Zhou Fangzuan shook his head. "He took over someone else's body and killed Toshiro. That proves that guy is very insidious and cunning. Come for me? Isn't that courting death?" "Courting death? Your inexplicable confidence is really unflattering." Dustless sneered. "Zhou Fangzuan, you are just a chess piece in that guy's plan. Do you understand? Chess piece?" Hearing this, the members of Wulua changed their expressions. Kusanagi Izumo asked with uncertainty, "Do you mean, that guy also wants to take over your body?" "That's right." Dustless gently nodded and explained, "The colorless king's strength is average. He can even be said to be the weakest king. But his ability is quite strange. He can invade the body of others and assimilate the personality of both sides. He can even take over the ability for himself." "I see." Everyone suddenly understood. No wonder the colorless king dared to find trouble with Dustless. He most likely wanted to take over his body. However, seeing that Dustless was safe and sound, there was no doubt that he had failed. Hence, he chose Zhou Fangzuan as his target. After all, compared to Dustless, Zhou Fangzuan was too weak. I can't wait for that guy to come for me. That way I can kill him." Zhou Fangzuan's killing intent was awe-inspiring. His whole body was emitting blazing flames. Toshiro was the first group of people to follow him. Although Zhou Fangzuan was usually sloppy and rarely spoke, he actually cared a lot about his companions. In the original work, Zhou Fangzuan even sacrificed himself to avenge Toshiro. It was enough to show that he valued relationships. "You only came to find me for this? If you are done you can leave." After knowing everything, Zhou Fangzuan immediately ordered Dustless to leave. "Kid, you really don't know how to repay kindness at all." Dustless couldn't help but shake his head. He couldn't be bothered to lower himself to Zhou Fangzuan's level. He said bluntly, "Looking at you, it doesn't seem like you have come up with any brilliant ideas. Won't you regret chasing me away like this? I have a plan to lure the colorless king to take the bait." The instant Dustless's words fell, it immediately attracted everyone's attention. "In other words, you want to cooperate with me?" Zhou Fangzuan revealed a rare hint of surprise. "Cooperation? You think too highly of yourself. You are not qualified. This is just purely using you. You are just a chess piece." Dustless couldn't be bothered to hide and directly said it. He believed that Zhou Fangzuan, who was eager to take revenge, would definitely jump in. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 23:11. Not qualified to cooperate and only fit to be a pawn? As soon as he said that, not to mention the bad-tempered Hadamiwa and the rest, even Channa was looking at Dustless angrily. This was blatant contempt and a slap in the face. "Don't be too arrogant." Zhou Fangzuan's expression changed drastically. He thought that he was arrogant enough, but compared to Dustless, what was he in the past? He was simply too gentle. It could even be called the means of a sheep. This was what it meant to be arrogant. Even the king wasn't qualified to cooperate. His value was limited to being used. Still not convinced? I just beat you up. How long has it been? Have you forgotten the scars? Zhou Fangzuan. Dustless looked at them with ridicule. Alright, tell me about your plan. Hearing that, Zhou Fangzuan opened his mouth. Looking at Dustless's provocative eyes, he finally shut his mouth. Strength determined everything. Previously they were all beaten up by Dustless. Since they were weaker than him, what qualifications did they have to talk about cooperation? Just like how the king could cooperate with ordinary humans? Without a doubt, it was impossible. The difference in strength was too great. It's not really a plan. I was just bored and thought about it a little. Dustless had his hands in his pockets. His tone was very calm. His eyes were focused on Zhou Fangzuan. And you might really die, Lord. Hearing that, the members of Bark Willow looked at Zhou Fangzuan worriedly. Among them, Kusanagi Juyun said in a deep voice, "Anyway, King Colorless will come out sooner or later. There's no need to take the risk. Lord, you should understand that without you, Bark Willow would lose its spiritual symbol. Bark Willow would also become a fish that could whet the appetite of others. Anyone could take a bite out of us." "You can't agree, Lord?" Channa tugged at Zhou Fangzuan's clothes nervously. She looked at Dustless with a look of disdain and disdain. "What's with that look? I'm not a big bad wolf. Besides, I didn't force him." Dustless felt wronged and couldn't help but scold her. "You should agree, right?" Dustless ignored the crowd and looked straight at Zhou Fangzuan. "Although I don't know you very well, everyone knows your character. Sometimes you don't care about losing your life for revenge. Don't tell me you can read my mind." Zhou Fangzuan glanced at Dustless and then closed his eyes as if he was making a final decision. "Tell me your plan." After taking a deep breath, Zhou Fangzuan finally agreed to Dustless's request. Just as Dustless had said, for the sake of revenge, he didn't care even if he had to sacrifice his own life. "It can't be considered a meticulous plan. It's just a crude strategy that I came up with in my spare time. It's not worth mentioning." Dustless put his hands in his pockets and said calmly, "The Formless King is very weak. Without absolute confidence he won't come out. So we can only bait him." "Tisich, I thought it was some kind of plan." Kusanagi Izumo curled her lips in disdain. "The Formless King isn't an idiot. Why would he take the initiative to come out? He can't deal with Fangzuan's strength." "Hee, that's why I need your king to cooperate with me." Dustless laughed sinisterly. Everyone felt their hair stand on end. The members of Wulua felt that this guy in front of them was a demon in human skin. Compared to him, the Formless King was just a clown. "Just say it," Zhou Fangzuan said firmly without blinking his eyes. "It's very simple. Just like what that yellow-haired guy said." Dustless pointed at Kusanagi Izumo and said calmly, "If you were at your peak, the Formless King wouldn't dare to come out and find trouble with you. So," Dustless paused for a moment. His eyes narrowed slightly like a cunning old fox. "I'll severely injure you. It'll be best if you're on the verge of death. That guy, the Formless King, will definitely come out." This was the situation in the original work. The Formless King racked his brains to provoke the battle between Zhou Fangzuan and the Ancestral Rites Division. His goal was for both of them to be injured. Then he would seize the opportunity to seize the body. Although the Formless King could devour other people's consciousness, even a strong-willed person like Zhou Fangzuan couldn't do anything about it. Therefore he racked his brains to provoke the battle between the King of Red and the King of Blue. He wanted to wait until both of them were injured to come out and take over their bodies. When a person was injured, all aspects of their physical fitness would decline. The same applied to their willpower. However, it would have been better if Dustless hadn't said anything. The moment he finished speaking, the members of Wulua looked at him angrily. Was this a plan? It was simply pushing Zhou Fangzuan into a fire pit. "You call this a plan? It's obviously a rotten idea." Kusanagi Izumo looked at Dustless unkindly. He gritted his teeth and looked like he wanted to swallow Dustless whole. He suspected that this was a deliberate revenge. "Rotten ideas are often the most effective," Dustless retorted. "Why don't you take the risk yourself?" Channa looked at Dustless motionlessly. Although her strength was average, her brain worked quite fast. "Compared to Zun, your strength is stronger and your ability is more strange. Using you as bait is definitely more suitable than Zun." "That's right." All the members of Wulua nodded. Dustless was obviously more tempting. "Sorry, although I also want to be bait, I can't allow someone weaker than me to seriously injure me. More importantly, I'm afraid of pain," Dustless said as if he was joking, but also as if he was serious at the same time. "You?" The members of Wulua gritted their teeth in anger. This guy was really unmoved by force or persuasion. "Enough, this is originally our Wulua's matter," Zhou Fangzuan suddenly scolded. The others fell silent. At the end of the day, Wulua wanted to eliminate King Colorless. Why should Dustless be the bait? No one would agree to this kind of thing. "I agree." Staring at Dustless, Zhou Fangzuan didn't hesitate at all. As expected of a king, he was straightforward and direct. "P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates. 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 23:12. You guys don't have to worry. Seeing the members of Bark Dance Club glaring at him in anger, it was as if they wanted to beat Dustless to the ground to vent their anger. That's easy to say. You're not the one who died. Venerable one. This is all your fault. Sinming Anna was full of complaints. She couldn't wait to die together with Dustless. Little girl, you're so young. Why are you so mature? A child like you should focus on studying instead of learning how to fall in love with those senseless youngsters. Wuxia said frankly. It would have been better if he didn't say anything. His words immediately attracted Sinming Anna's firepower. She looked at him angrily. You don't tell me that I only treat Honored as an older brother. Really, why do you always misunderstand me? I didn't say that I had to severely injure him. Dustless sighed and explained slowly, we just have to pretend that we're in a big battle and pretend that we're injured. That's more like it. Hearing this, the members of Bark Dance Club were relieved. If Zhou Fangzuan was seriously injured and the King of Colorless took over his body, wouldn't that be terrible? Let's begin. Zhou Fangzuan was a man of few words. He didn't want to waste time talking nonsense. His eyes turned cold. Powerful flames erupted from his body and he immediately pounced over. He lost to Dustless in the previous battle. He wasn't satisfied and wanted to try again. You're overestimating yourself. Dustless also understood Zhou Fangzuan's thoughts. He immediately stepped forward and threw out a seemingly weak punch. Boom, boom, boom. The curtains of a great battle that had turned from a farce into a reality had suddenly been raised. In the evening, Dustless had already returned home. As for Zhou Fangzuan, he was lying in the hospital. No matter how hard he tried, his strength couldn't shake Dustless. Dinner was still ordered takeout. Dustless didn't lack money and could eat all kinds of good food. Purr, purr. On the dining table, the cat swept up all kinds of delicacies. Whatever was in its mouth, in the pot, and even Dustless's portion was swept clean. This guy must have been the reincarnation of a hungry ghost in his past life. Dustless looked at the cat, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. When he was about to taste the sashimi, the cat spoke while eating. By the way, that white-haired guy came looking for you, the cat suddenly said, which made Dustless frown. A white-haired guy? Dustless lowered his head and thought for a moment before asking without hesitation, could it be the Izona Society? No, the Silver King? That's him. The cat nodded. There's also a young man with long hair. If I remember correctly, his name is Go Lang. The two of them? Dustless stopped the sashimi that was about to be stuffed into his mouth. In a split second, the sashimi was snatched away by the cat. The cat's speed dazzled Dustless and caught him off guard. You greedy cat. Dustless sighed faintly, leaned back on the sofa and asked, let me guess why they're here. They're probably here to talk about cooperation again? They want to work together to deal with the Colorless King. I rejected them last time and this guy came looking for me again. He has no awareness at all. It was not that Dustless did not want to cooperate, but that there was no need to. It's not a matter of cooperation. The cat tilted its head and immediately recalled what happened before. It said, the two of them are very strange. They kept asking me about your background. My background? Hearing that, Dustless was somewhat surprised, but he was not surprised. He asked again, what did they ask? About my identity? Maybe it's not just the two of them. Everyone else is very curious. After all, Dustless was not a king, but his strength was almost overwhelming. Who would not find it strange? And there are others who came. The cat continued, it's the group in blue. What's their name again? I think it's the Ancestral Right Division. Dustless's gaze suddenly focused on the cat. He asked curiously, that guy came? Is he also asking about my background? In his mind, he suddenly remembered a wise man wearing glasses. Dustless's mind became active. He did not think that the Ancestral Right Division would curry favor with him. On the contrary, the two of them had a lot of grudges. Last time, he defeated the Ancestral Right Division and made this guy lose face. Although there were no more conflicts after that, there was no doubt that Dustless made a king lose face. If he could endure being slapped in the face, he would not be a king. They don't come with good intentions. Dustless said softly, although I don't think the Ancestral Right Division will do anything despicable, you'd better be careful. By the way, other than asking about my whereabouts, did he ask anything else? Dustless asked. It was strange that there were no traces of Scepter 4 in the past few days. It was as if he had disappeared from the face of the earth. This. The cat tilted his head and thought carefully. At that time he was quite scary. He gave off a very deep feeling. That's interesting. It seems like something happened. Hearing this, Wuxia smiled with interest. As everyone knew, the Ancestral Right Division was a person who paid great attention to etiquette and his image. Not to mention when he was angry, even when talking to the enemy he would speak politely. The only person who could make the Ancestral Right Division angry was Dustless. Now that this guy was angry again, Dustless could not help but gloat. What does it have to do with you? The cat asked worriedly. Let me tell you, that guy is really angry. Maybe if it weren't for you, he would have already taken me away. After saying this, the cat showed a frightened expression. I'm innocent, Dustless said briefly and made a guess out of boredom. But according to my opinion, there's an 80% chance that something unexpected happened. The Ancestral Right Division was very angry when they couldn't find the culprit. They investigated all the enemies including me. Needless to say, this time he guessed right. The Ancestral Right Division really did encounter something bad. He hadn't slept for several days and his eyes were bloodshot. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 23:13. In Scepter 4's base, all the members looked nervous and did not look too good. For the past few days their boss, the Ancestral Right Division, had been acting like he had eaten gunpowder. He kept throwing tantrums for no reason, causing everyone to complain incessantly. Sometimes they would be scolded for no reason, but they couldn't refute. They could only bow and admit their mistakes. It was really frustrating. Fujian. Have you found her? In the office of the CEO, the Ancestral Right Division was looking at the tall buildings in the distance. He was in a trance and his face looked haggard. In the past, he gave people the impression that he was full of energy and vigor. Now he looked like a prisoner who had quit drugs. His whole body was bald and listless. Not yet. The young man called Fu Jian lowered his head in shame. I'm sorry, CEO. It's all because of my incompetence that Miss Adashima went missing. Just 2 days ago, the second in command of Scepter 4, Adashima Shirley, suddenly disappeared without a trace. No one knew where she went and no one knew where she went. They couldn't contact her anymore. This made the members of Scepter 4 very anxious. The Ancestral Right Division immediately suspected that it was done by some enemy, so he went to ask Dustless and the others. However, he didn't get any answers. He was indescribably depressed and anxious. Don't blame yourself too much. This has nothing to do with you. Order your men. Even if you have to turn the city upside down, you have to find Shirley. Even if she's dead, you have to find her body. The Ancestral Right Division's tone was full of murderous intent. The reason why the members of Scepter 4 had disappeared these days was because they were all searching for Adashima Shirley. That was why Dustless didn't see the man in blue. CO, there are some things that I don't know if I should say. Fu Jian looked hesitant. His lips trembled slightly as if there was something that he couldn't say. If you have something to say, then say it. There are no outsiders here. The Ancestral Right Division looked at Fu Jian with hope. He sincerely hoped that he would say something valuable. Adashima Shirley's sudden disappearance was a huge blow to the Ancestral Right Division. After all, she was his right-hand woman. He couldn't afford to lose her. Miss Dama would not disappear for no reason. In my opinion, she must have been taken away by someone. Fu Jianyugu secretly glanced at the Ancestral Statue Rights Division and saw that he also had a deep expression on his face. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief and continue, Miss Danjima is not weak. The person who can capture her without her knowing is probably a king. Your analysis is reasonable. Fu Jian, I didn't expect your thinking to become more and more mature. In the future, you will be able to help me solve my problems. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division smiled gently and was very satisfied with Fu Jian. Actually, his face suddenly paled and he said helplessly, to tell you the truth, I thought so too. That's why I went to find Dustless, but he wasn't home at the time. Then, in your opinion, it was Dustless who kidnapped Miss Danjima? Fu Baigu saw the coldness in Yuan Bigu's eyes, and his tone suddenly became hostile. It's hard to say. Hearing this, the Ancestral Statue Rights Division didn't know how to answer. He could only say what he thought. I don't think Dustless would do such a thing. He kidnapped Danjima just to threaten me. But Dustless doesn't need to threaten me. He is stronger than me. Why would he threaten me? If he wanted to, he could have just taken it openly. I can't stop him anyway. There's no need to do such a thing. That's true. Fu Jianyugu nodded deeply. If he was Dustless, he would directly choose to come to their door. Why would it be so troublesome? Dong dong dong. At this moment, a hurried knocking sound came from the door. Both of them furrowed their brows without leaving a trace. Come in. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division said in a deep voice. Chief, someone has sent you a letter. The person who came in said as he handed a wrapped envelope to the Ancestral Statue Rights Division. Envelope. Hearing this, the Ancestral Statue Rights Division frowned. Who would be so troublesome to send a letter? Open it and take a look. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division tore open the envelope. There was no so-called content, just a few simple photos. This is, bastard. Who did this? The Ancestral Statue Rights Division was instantly furious. The photo that came into view was of Danjima Shiri, who was tied up. She looked embarrassed, as if she hadn't eaten for a long time. Her face was as pale as paper. Who did this? Fu Jianyugu was also furious. Could it be the group of people from the Red King? Everyone hasn't been harmonious all this time? Ding ding ding. At the same time, the phone on the table suddenly rang. The frustrated Ancestral Statue Rights Division was about to hang up, but the moment he picked up the phone, he couldn't relax. Have you seen the photo? Do you want this lady to live? A simple sentence seemed to be filled with magic. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division's face suddenly changed. Who the hell are you? You'd better ensure her safety. Otherwise, I'll tear you into pieces even if I have to destroy this country. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division's face turned red, and his ferocious eyes made people shudder. Fu Jianyugu was also shocked. In his memory, this was the first time the leader was so angry. My request is very simple. Bring Tsunana's head to me. Otherwise, this woman is dead for sure. After that, the mysterious man hung up the Den Mushi. If Dustless was here, he would be able to recognize the strange voice. In fact, it was Colorless himself. He did this to provoke a war between the Red King and the Blue King, and then he would benefit from it. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.